A killer called the Phantom stalks New York, leaving taunting notes and dead bodies. Nero Wolfe, the brilliant detective, and Archie Goodwin hunt Randall Burke, a vengeful son, and his fierce sister Laura. Can they stop the murders before the Phantom strikes again? Chapter 1. The Shadow Strikes. The rain slapped the windows of Nero Wolfe's brownstone on West 35th Street, a steady drumbeat that matched my mood. I was Archie Goodwin, Wolfe's assistant, legman, and general proder of his genius. It was 8 o'clock on a chilly October evening, and I was in the office, feet propped on my desk, flipping through a magazine. Wolfe was upstairs with his orchids, probably muttering at them like they could talk back. Fritz, our chef, was clattering in the kitchen, whipping up something that smelled like heaven with a side of garlic. Life was quiet, which usually meant trouble was about to knock. The doorbell buzzed. I sighed, dropped the magazine, and strolled to the hall. Through the one-way glass, I saw a young woman, maybe 25, standing under the stoop's light. She was soaked, her dark coat clinging to her like a second skin, and her face was pale, eyes wide with something close to panic. I opened the door. "Mr. Wolfe?" she asked, voice shaky. "Nero Wolfe's upstairs, and he doesn't like damp visitors," I said, grinning to ease her nerves. "I'm Archie Goodwin. Come in, dry off, and tell me what's got you out in this storm." She stepped inside, dripping on the rug. I took her coat and hung it on the rack. She was tall, with brown hair pinned up messily, and green eyes that darted like a cornered cat's. Her dress was simple but expensive, the kind you wear to impress without trying too hard. I led her to the office, parked her in the red leather chair by Wolfe's desk, and handed her a towel from the closet. "Name?" I asked, sitting at my desk and grabbing a notebook. "Clara Henshaw," she said, dabbing her face. "My father. He's dead. Murdered. Last night in his penthouse. The police are useless, and I need Mr. Wolfe's help." I raised an eyebrow. "Murder's a big word, Miss Henshaw. Start from the start. Who's your father, and what happened?" She took a deep breath, clutching the towel. "My father was Victor Henshaw, the steel magnate. He owned Henshaw Industries. Last night I went to his place on Park Avenue to drop off some papers. I have a key, so I let myself in around 10. The lights were on, but it was too quiet. I called for him, got no answer. Then I found him in his study." Her voice cracked. "He was on the floor, stabbed in the chest, blood everywhere. I screamed, called the police. They came, poked around, but they've got nothing. No suspects, no clues, except this." She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper in a plastic bag. I took it, careful not to smudge anything. The paper was thick, like fancy stationery, and typed in bold letters were the words, "The Phantom claims his due." Below it was a scrawled signature, "The Phantom," in black ink. I whistled low. "Spooky? The cops saw this?" "Yes," Clara said. "They think it's a prank or some nutcase. But I know my father had enemies. His business deals weren't always clean, and he'd been jumpy lately, like he was waiting for something bad. I'm scared, Mr. Goodwin. What if this Phantom comes for me next?" Her eyes filled with tears, but she held them back. I liked her grit. Most people would have crumbled, but she was here, fighting for answers. I leaned back, thinking. Victor. Henshaw was a big name. Factories, skyscrapers, buckets of money. His death would be front-page news, and a killer signing notes as the Phantom was the kind of puzzle Wolfe couldn't resist. "Hold tight," I said. "I'll get the big man. He's not fond of evening callers, but this'll grab him." Took the stairs, 2 at a time, to the greenhouse on the roof. Wolfe was there, a mountain in a yellow smock, fussing over a row of purple orchids. His round face, framed by grey hair, was set in a scowl as he clipped a stem. At 6 feet and 1/7 of a ton, he looked like a grumpy bear in a flower shop. "Archie," he growled without looking up, "if this is about your poker game, I refuse to finance your losses." "No cards tonight, boss," I said. "We've got a client, Clara Henshaw, daughter of Victor Henshaw, Steel King. He was stabbed dead last night, and the killer left a note signed The Phantom. She's downstairs, scared and ready to pay." "You in?" Wolfe's eyes narrowed. He sat down. His clippers, wiped his hands on a towel and grunted. "A theatrical killer. Tiresome, but intriguing. Very well. I'll be down in 10 minutes. Offer Miss Henshaw coffee and keep her calm." Back in the office, I poured Clara a cup of Fritz's coffee, strong enough to wake a coma patient, and I sipped it, her hands steadier now. "Mr. Wolfe's coming," I told her. "He's the best, but he's picky. Give him everything, names, dates, anything odd about your father lately." She nodded. "Father was distant these past weeks. He'd lock himself in his study making calls at odd hours. Once I overheard him arguing about a deal gone wrong. He mentioned a name, Randall, I think. He sounded afraid. I jotted that down. Randall, got it. Anyone else he clashed with?" "Plenty," she said. "His partner, Leonard Morse, was always pushing for riskier investments. Father didn't trust him. And there was a lawyer, Evelyn Crane, who handled his contracts. She quit suddenly last month. Father wouldn't say why. I liked this. Names, motives, a shady deal, plenty for Wolfe to chew on." The clock ticked, and Wolfe shuffled in, wearing his custom suit that could have draped a small tent. He eased into his oversized chair behind the desk, clasped his hands over his belly, and fixed Clara with a stare. "Miss Henshaw," he said, voice deep like a cello, "my condolences. Archie has briefed me. Tell me everything from the moment you entered your father's penthouse. Omit nothing." Clara straightened, as if his voice steadied her. I arrived at 9:50. The doorman, Jerry, waved me up. He's known me for years. The elevator took me to the penthouse 40th floor. Father's place is huge, marble floors, big windows, art everywhere. I called out, but it was silent. Too silent. His study door was ajar, light spilling out. I pushed it open and saw him. She swallowed. He was on his back near his desk, a knife in his chest. The room was neat, no mess, no signs of a fight. Just that note, pinned to his jacket with a safety pin. Wolfe's lips twitched, a sign his brain was revving. "The knife, describe it." "Silver handle about 6 inches long," Clara said. "Like a fancy letter opener, but sharper. The police took it." "And the note?" Wolfe asked. I handed him the plastic bag. He studied it through the plastic, his eyes flicking over the typed words and signature. "Bold," he murmured. "This phantom craves drama. Miss Henshaw, your father's recent behaviour, elaborate." Clara repeated what she'd told me. The late-night calls, the name Randall, the tension with Morse and Crane. She added, Father kept a journal, leather-bound, in his safe. I didn't see it last night. The police didn't mention it either." Wolfe leaned back, eyes half closed, a sure sign he was thinking hard. The safe, was it open? "I don't know," Clara admitted. "I was too shaken to check." "Very well," Wolfe said. "Your father's enemies, his journal, this note, they form a pattern. I will take the case. My fee is substantial, but you appear able to pay. Archie, call Inspector Kramer. Inform him we are engaged and request access to the penthouse tomorrow." Clara's shoulders sagged with relief. "Thank you, Mr. Wolfe. I'll pay whatever you ask. Just find this phantom." Wolfe waved a hand, dismissing her gratitude. "Archie, we'll see you out. Return tomorrow 10 a.m. with any further details." I escorted Clara to the door, returned her coat, and watched her vanish into the rain. Back in the office, Wolfe was still staring at the note, lips pursed. "Thoughts, boss?" I asked. He grunted. "This killer is no ghost, Archie, but a man with a grudge and a flair for theatre. The note's typing suggests calculation. The signature, ego. We face a mind that plans yet craves attention. Tomorrow you'll visit the penthouse. Look for that journal and any trace of this Randall." I nodded, already itching to dig in. "You think the journal's the key?" "Possibly," Wolfe said. "Or a distraction. The Phantom's game has begun, and we must play it carefully." I grinned. Wolfe hated leaving his house, but a puzzle like this. He'd stay up past his bedtime. As for me, I was ready to chase this ghost through every alley in Manhattan. The Phantom Killer had no idea who he'd just challenged. The rain kept pounding as I locked up the office. Fritz poked his head in, offering a late-night snack, but I waved him off. My mind was on Clara's pale face, that creepy note, and a dead man with a knife in his chest. Somewhere out there, the Phantom was laughing. Not for long, I thought. Not with Nero Wolfe on the case. Chapter 2. The Brownstone Briefing. The morning after Clara Henshaw's visit, the brownstone on West 35th Street hummed with purpose. I was up at 7, earlier than I liked, because Nero Wolfe had declared a breakfast meeting. Fritz was in the kitchen, flipping pancakes and sizzling bacon, the smells drifting through the house like a warm hug. I sat at my desk in the office, sipping coffee and scribbling notes from last night. Victor Henshaw stabbed, phantom note, names like Randall, Morse, Crane. Wolfe was still upstairs, probably grumbling about leaving his orchids for murder. By 8, the doorbell started buzzing. First came Saul Panzer, short, wiry, with a sharp nose and sharper eyes. He was the best private detective I knew, next to me. He tipped his hat, hung his coat, and settled in the yellow chair by Wolfe's desk. Next was Fred Durkin, big and solid, loyal, but not the quickest thinker. He plopped into a chair, munching a donut he'd brought. Last was Ori Cather, tall, handsome, and cocky, always acting like he was the star of the show. I liked Ori, but sometimes I wanted to wipe that smirk off his face. "Morning, boys," I said, leaning back. "Wolfe's got a juicy one. Murder, a creepy note, and a killer who calls himself the Phantom. Buckle up." Saul raised an eyebrow. "Phantom? Sounds like a guy who reads too many comic books." Fred grunted. "Long as we get paid, he can call himself King Kong." Ori flashed his grin. "Let's hear it, Archie. What's the score?" Before I could answer, Wolfe shuffled in, a mountain in a grey suit. He eased into his custom chair, the only one that could hold his seventh of a ton, and rang the buzzer for Fritz. A minute later, Fritz brought a tray. Coffee, pancakes, bacon, and a pitcher of orange juice. Wolfe poured his coffee, took a sip, and sighed like it was the only thing keeping him alive. "Gentlemen," he said, voice deep and steady, "we are engaged in a matter of murder. Victor Henshaw, steel magnate, was stabbed in his Park Avenue penthouse 2 nights ago. The killer left a note signed The Phantom. Miss Clara Henshaw, his daughter, has hired us to find this person. Archie, summarize." I flipped open my notebook. Clara found her dad dead around 10 p.m., stabbed with a silver-handled knife, no signs of a fight. The note said, "The Phantom claims his due," typed with a handwritten signature. Cops, led by Inspector Kramer, have no leads. Clara says her dad was jumpy lately, mentioned a guy named Randall in a heated call, and had issues with his business partner, Leonard Morse, and a lawyer, Evelyn Crane, who quit suddenly. There's also a missing journal from his safe. Wolfe nodded, eyes half closed, which meant his brain was in high gear. "The note, Archie. Show it." I pulled the plastic bag with the Phantom's note from the desk drawer and passed it around. Saul studied it like a jeweller, eyeing a diamond. Fred squinted, confused. Ori smirked, like it was a joke. "Typed," Saul said, handing it back. "No fingerprints, I bet. This guy's careful. Or he wants us to think he is," Wolfe said. "The signature is bold, personal. He craves attention, yet hides his tracks. A contradiction. Miss Henshaw mentioned enemies. Elaborate, Archie. Ticked them off. Leonard Morse, Henshaw's partner, pushed risky deals Henshaw didn't like. Evelyn Crane, the lawyer, walked away from a cushy job for no clear reason. And Randall, unknown, but Henshaw was scared when he mentioned him. Clara said her dad's business wasn't always clean, so there's probably more dirt. Wolfe sipped his coffee, thinking, "The journal interests me. A man like Henshaw would record sensitive matters, deals, debts, secrets. If it's missing, the killer may have taken it, or it's still in the safe, overlooked. Archie, you'll visit the penthouse today. Inspector Kramer has granted access. Look for the journal, the safe, anything out of place." I nodded, jotting it down. "What about the note? You think it's a real clue, or just show?" Wolfe's lips twitched. "Both. The typing suggests planning, the signature ego. This Phantom is no ghost, but a man with a grudge. His choice of name implies he wishes to seem untouchable, yet he risks exposure with these notes. We must learn why." Saul leaned forward. "You think it's personal? Not business? Possibly," Wolfe said. "Henshaw's fear of this Randall suggests a threat beyond money. We need his past. Friends, enemies, old deals. Saul, dig into Henshaw's history. Start with his company, Henshaw Industries. Find any scandals or lawsuits from the last 10 years. Saul nodded, his eyes sharp. "Got it. I'll check court records, news, and talk to my contacts." Wolfe turned to Fred. "Mr. Durkin, you'll watch Leonard Morse. His home, office, habits. Be discreet. If he's involved, he may act nervous or contact the killer." Fred cracked his knuckles. "No problem, Mr. Wolfe. I'll stick to him like glue." "Ori," Wolfe said. "Miss Crane, the lawyer. Find her. Learn why she left Henshaw's employ. Charm her if you must, but get answers. Ori's grin widened. Charm's my middle name. She'll talk. I snorted. Just don't propose, Ori. We need her focused. Wolfe ignored us, pouring more coffee. Archie, after the penthouse, visit the doorman Jerry. He saw Miss Henshaw enter, confirm her timeline, and ask if others visited that night. Then report to me. We meet again tonight, 7 p.m. Got it, I said. Anything else? Wolfe leaned back, eyes narrowing. This phantom plays a dangerous game. If he strikes, again, we must be ready. Speed is essential. Go! We scattered like kids after a school bell. Saul headed to his contacts, Fred to Morse's office, Ori to track Crane. I grabbed my coat, hat, and notebook, then stepped into the crisp October air. The rain had stopped, leaving puddles that mirrored the grey sky. I hailed a cab to Park Avenue, Henshaw's penthouse address burning in my mind. The building was a tower of glass and stone, the kind that screamed money. The doorman, Jerry, was a skinny guy with a tired face. I flashed my card, Archie Goodwin, private investigator, and he perked up. Clara's detective? He asked. Cops were here all night. What do you want? Just checking, I said, keeping it light. You saw Clara at 9:50, right? Anyone else go up that night? Jerry scratched his chin. Yeah, Clara came in, waved like always. Nobody else used the penthouse elevator after 7. Mr. Henshaw had a guest earlier, though. Guy in a dark coat, hat pulled low, left around 6, didn't get a good look. I made a note. Mystery guest, 6 p.m. Henshaw seem off lately. Nervous? Jerry nodded. Last week he was jumpy. Kept looking over his shoulder, like he expected trouble. Asked me to buzz him if anyone strange showed up. Thanks, Jerry, I said, slipping him a 5. If you remember anything else, call me. Upstairs, the penthouse was as Clara described. Marble floors, big windows, art that cost more than my year's pay. The police had left yellow tape around the study door. I ducked under it, careful not to touch anything. The study was cosy. Bookshelves, a mahogany desk, a rug now stained with Henshaw's blood. The chalk outline of his body gave me a shiver. I checked the desk, papers, pens, a photo of Clara smiling. No journal. The safe was in the wall, hidden behind a painting of a ship. It was closed, the dial untouched. I didn't have the combination, but the lock looked clean. No scratches, no signs of tampering. If the killer took the journal, he knew the code. I poked around the room. A phone sat on the desk, its cord neatly coiled. I lifted the receiver, heard a dial tone, and checked the redial button. Nothing. The trash can was empty, the bookshelves orderly. One thing caught my eye. A business card tucked under a paperweight. It read, Evelyn Crane, attorney at law, with an address crossed out and a new one scribbled in pen. I pocketed it for Ori. The rest of the penthouse was spotless. Living room, kitchen, bedrooms, no signs of a struggle, no hidden clues. The phantom was careful, like Saul said. I left, locking the door, and rode the elevator down, my mind spinning. The journal, the mystery guest, Henshaw's fear. It all pointed to something big, something personal. Back at the brownstone, I called Inspector Kramer. He growled when I mentioned Wolfe's name. but confirmed the police found no prints on the note or knife. The knife was a custom job, silver-handled, no maker's mark. I thanked him, hung up, and typed my notes for Wolfe. By 6, I was antsy, waiting for the team to report. Fritz was cooking dinner. Roast chicken, potatoes, and asparagus. The smells driving me nuts. Wolfe came down at 7 sharp, settling, in the office with a glass of beer. Saul, Fred, and Orrie trickled in, each with a story. Saul went first. Henshaw Industries had a lawsuit 5 years ago. A supplier claimed Henshaw stiffed them on $1 million deal. The case settled, but the supplier's owner, a guy named Randall Burke, swore revenge. He's off the grid now, no address, perked up. Randall? Clara heard her dad mention that name. Wolfe nodded. Interesting. Mr. Durkin? Fred shifted. Morse is a slick guy, lives in a fancy townhouse, works late. Today he was on edge, making calls, shredding papers. I couldn't get close, but he's hiding something. Orrie? Wolfe asked. Orrie leaned back, smug. Found Crane. She's got a new office downtown. I played nice, said I was checking Henshaw's contacts. She got cagey when I mentioned his death. Said she quit because of creative differences. I think she's scared. Wolfe sipped his beer, eyes gleaming. Good. We have threads. Randall Burke, a vengeful ghost. Morse, destroying evidence. Crane, evasive. Archie, your findings? I ran through it. Jerry's mystery guest. The untouched safe. The business card. No journal, but the penthouse was too clean. The phantom's no amateur. Wolfe set down his glass. This killer is deliberate, yet his phantom name betrays a need for drama. The journal, if it exists, holds his motive. Tomorrow, Archie, get the safe's combination from Miss Henshaw. Saul, find Burke. Fred, stay on Morse. Orrie, press Crane harder. We reconvene at 7. We nodded, ready to chase the phantom's shadow. As the team left, I felt a thrill. The game was on, and Wolfe was already 3 steps ahead. Dinner was a quiet affair. Just me and Wolfe, Fritz's chicken melting in my mouth. I watched Wolfe eat, his mind clearly on the case. The phantom was out there, plotting his next move, but with Wolfe's brain and our legwork, we'd catch him. I just hoped it was before he struck again. Chapter 3. The Second Strike. The brownstone was quiet the next evening, but my nerves were anything but. I was in the office, typing up notes from the day's work, while Nero Wolfe sat behind his desk, sipping beer and staring at a crossword puzzle. Fritz was in the kitchen, cleaning up after a dinner of pork chops and apple pie that could have made a statue smile. It was just past 8, and I was waiting for Saul, Fred, and Orrie to report back on their leads. Randall Burke, Leonard Morse, and Evelyn Crane. The phantom killer's shadow hung over us, and I had a bad feeling it was about to get darker. The phone rang, sharp and loud. I grabbed it. Nero Wolfe's residence, Archie Goodwin speaking. Archie, it's Kramer, came the gruff voice of Inspector Kramer, head of homicide. He sounded like he'd chewed a cigar to bits. Get Wolfe on the line, now. I raised an eyebrow. Kramer didn't call unless something big was up. Hold on, Inspector. Let me see if the boss is free. I covered the receiver and looked at Wolfe. Kramer's on the warpath. You want to talk or should I stall? Wolfe set down his pencil, frowning. Put him through. His timing suggests trouble. I handed over the phone. Wolfe held it like it might bite. Inspector Kramer, what is it? I couldn't hear Kramer's side, but Wolfe's face tightened, his eyes narrowing. When? Where? I see. Yes, Archie will be there shortly. No, Inspector, I will not speculate until I have facts. He hung up, leaned back and muttered something about tiresome interruptions. What's the scoop? I asked, leaning forward. Wolfe sighed. Another murder. Leonard Morse, Victor Henshaw's business partner, was poisoned at a charity gala tonight at the Grand Hotel. A note was found, signed The Phantom. The police are at the scene. You will go, Archie. Observe, question and report. Take notes on everything. The body, the note, the guests. I grabbed my coat and hat, my pulse kicking up. 2 murders in 3 days, both tied to Henshaw's world, both tagged by this phantom. Morse was Fred's mark, I said. He's going to feel rotten. Inform Mr. Durkin when you see him, Wolfe said. And Archie, be cautious. This killer is bold and unpredictable. I nodded, already halfway to the door. The October night was chilly, the air sharp as I hailed a cab to the Grand Hotel. The place was a glittering palace on Fifth Avenue, all chandeliers and marble. But tonight it was crawling with cops. Blue uniforms blocked the entrance, and a crowd of nosy onlookers pressed against the barriers, whispering about murder. I flashed my card to a rookie cop, who let me through. Inside, the ballroom was a mess of overturned chairs, spilled drinks, and shaken guests in fancy suits and gowns. I spotted Fred Durkin near the bar, his big frame slumped, his face red with guilt. I headed over. Fred, what happened? I asked, keeping my voice low. He shook his head. I messed up, Archie. I was tailing Morse like Wolfe said. He came here for the gala, mingling, drinking. I stayed close, watching. Around 7 he started coughing, grabbed his chest and dropped, dead before he hit the floor. Docs say poison, fast-acting, probably in his drink. I didn't see nobody slip him anything. I clapped his shoulder. Easy, Fred. This phantom's slippery. Where's the body? Fred pointed to a corner cordoned off by tape. Over there. Cops got the note too. I weaved through the crowd to the crime scene. Leonard Morse lay on the floor, his tuxedo wrinkled, his face frozen in a grimace. He was maybe 50, balding, with a gold watch that screamed money. A glass lay tipped near his hand, a faint green tint in the spilled liquid. I crouched, careful not to touch anything, and sniffed. Bitter, like almonds. Cyanide, maybe. A cop handed me a plastic bag with the phantom's note, same as before. Thick paper, typed words. The phantom claims his due, signed in black ink. The handwriting matched the first note, bold and loopy. This guy loved his drama. Inspector Kramer stomped over, his face like a storm cloud. Goodwin, what's Wolfe playing at? 2 bodies, 2 notes, and he's sitting home with his beer. I want answers. I grinned, keeping it light. Wolfe's thinking, Inspector. That's his job. I'm here to look, and I'll report everything. What have you got so far? Kramer chewed his unlit cigar. Morse was poisoned around 7. Gala had 200 guests, open bar, waiters everywhere. Nobody saw anything funny. We're testing the glass, but I'm betting it's cyanide. The note was in his pocket, folded neat. This phantom's a ghost. Not a ghost, I said. Just clever. Any leads on the knife from Henshaw's murder? Kramer scowled. Lab says it's custom. No prints, no source. You and Wolfe holding. Out on me? Nope, I said, hands up. We're chasing the same shadows. Let me talk to the staff. Maybe someone saw something. Kramer waved me off, muttering about Wolfe's tricks. I started with the head waiter, a nervous guy named Tony. He said Morse was chatty, downing martinis, until he grabbed a fresh drink from a tray and collapsed minutes later. Tony didn't see who served the drink. Too many waiters, too much chaos. I got the same story from a bartender and a coat check girl. The phantom was invisible. I found Fred again, still moping. Fred, you see Morse talk to anyone special? A woman maybe, or someone pushy? Fred rubbed his neck. Yeah, there was a dame. Tall, dark hair, red dress. She handed Morse a drink, smiled, then vanished into the crowd. I figured she was just flirting. My gut twisted. A woman, like the one Clara mentioned near Henshaw's penthouse? Describe her, Fred. 30s, pretty, moved like she, owned the place, didn't get a good look at her face. I jotted it down. Mystery woman, red dress. Good work, Fred. Head back to the brownstone. Tell Wolfe I'll be there soon. I spent another hour at the gala, questioning guests. Most were too shocked or drunk to notice anything. One old guy, a banker named Pratt, said he saw Morse arguing with a man in a grey suit before the poisoning, but he couldn't ID the guy. Another clue, another shadow. Back at the brownstone, it was past 10. Wolfe was in the office, reading a book on orchids, a fresh beer at his elbow. I dropped into my chair, tossed my hat on the desk, and gave him the rundown. Morse's poisoning, the note, the green-tinted glass, the mystery woman, the man in the grey suit. Wolfe leaned back, eyes half closed. Cyanide, you say? Quick, efficient. The note confirms our killer's pattern. This woman interests me. She appears at both scenes, yet no one knows her. A confederate, perhaps, or a distraction. Or the phantom himself, I said. Dressed as a woman to throw us off, Wolfe grunted. Unlikely, but not impossible. The man in the grey suit, another thread. We must connect Morse to Henshaw, beyond business. Archie, tomorrow, meet Miss Henshaw. Ask about Morse's enemies and any women in his circle. Also, get the safe's combination. Got it, I said, yawning. What about Kramer? He's ready to storm in here. Wolfe's lips twitched. Let him storm. He has no evidence to demand our findings. Call Saul, Fred, and Ori. I want their reports now. I dialed Saul first. He was at a diner, digging into Henshaw's past. Found something, he said. Randall Burke, the supplier who sued Henshaw, had a partner named Morse, Leonard Morse. They fell out after the lawsuit. Burke vanished, but Morse joined Henshaw's company. Bad blood all around. I whistled. So Morse and Burke had history. Nice work, Saul. Come to the brownstone. Fred was already there, sulking in the hall. Ori answered his phone, sounding smug. Crane's clamming up, he said. Met her again. Pushed hard. She admitted Henshaw fired her over a disagreement about a contract. Wouldn't say more, but she's jumpy. I'm tailing her tomorrow. Good, I said. Get here now. By 11, the team was back in the office. Saul repeated. His find, Morse and Burke's feud tied to the old lawsuit. Fred apologized for missing the poisoning, but Wolfe waved it off. Ori's news about Crane added another piece. Henshaw's world was full of secrets. Wolfe sipped his beer, thinking, Morse's death narrows our focus. He and Henshaw shared enemies, Burke, possibly Crane. The woman in the red dress is key. She may be an accomplice or a witness. Saul, find Burke's last known address. Fred, watch the gala's staff. Someone served that drink. Ori, stay on Crane. Press her until she breaks. Archie, your tasks stand. We nodded, the air thick, with purpose. Wolfe set down his glass. This phantom is no spirit, but a man with a plan. His notes are a taunt. His murders a message. We will decipher it before he strikes again. As the team left, I typed up my notes, the typewriters, clack echoing in the quiet. Fritz poked his head in, offering cocoa, but I shook my head. My mind was on Morse's twisted face, that green-tinted glass, and a woman in a red dress who slipped through crowds like smoke. The phantom was laughing somewhere, but we were closing in. I just hoped we'd catch him before another body dropped do. Chase. Night was still, but sleep felt miles away. I locked the office, checked the front door, and climbed the stairs to my room. The brownstone was our fortress, Wolfe, our general. The phantom killer had picked the wrong fight. Chapter 4. Archie's Legwork. The morning sun cut through the brownstone's windows, but it didn't brighten my mood. I was up early, gulping Fritz's coffee, my head full of the phantom killer's tricks. 2 murders, Victor Henshaw, stabbed, and Leonard Morse, poisoned, both marked by notes signed The Phantom. Nero Wolfe was upstairs, probably fussing with his orchids, while I was itching to hit the streets. Last night, Wolfe had sent Saul Panzer after Randall Burke, Fred Durkin to watch the gala's staff, and Ori Cather to squeeze Evelyn Crane. My job, meet Clara Henshaw, chase the mystery woman in the red dress, and dig into Victor's world for dirt. The clock was ticking, and the phantom wasn't slowing down. I called Clara at 9 sharp. She sounded tired, but agreed to meet me at a diner on Lexington Avenue at 10. I grabbed my coat, hat, and notebook, then stepped into the crisp October air. The city was alive, horns honking, people rushing, newsboys shouting about Morse's murder. The headlines screamed, "Phantom Killer Strikes Again!" I bought a paper, skimmed it, and tucked it under my arm. No new clues, just panic. The diner was a cozy spot, all chrome and red booths, smelling of bacon and syrup. Clara was already there in a corner booth, stirring a coffee. Her green eyes were puffy, like she hadn't slept. I slid in across from her, flashing a grin to lighten. "The mood, morning, Miss Henshaw," I said. "Rough night?" She nodded, her voice soft. "I keep seeing Father's face. And now Mr. Morse. Is it the same killer?" "Looks that way," I said, keeping it gentle. "Same note, same style. I need your help to catch this guy. First, the safe in your father's study. Got the combination?" Clara frowned, thinking. "Yes, it's 12/28/45. His wedding date with Mother. I forgot to mention it yesterday." I jotted it down. "Perfect. Next, Morse. He and your dad were partners. Any bad blood?" Clara sipped her coffee. "Father didn't trust him. Morse wanted to buy risky companies, but Father thought they'd lose money. They argued a lot. Last month, Father caught Morse hiding some deal papers. He was furious, threatened to fire him. I leaned forward. What kind of deal? I don't know, she said. Father wouldn't tell me. He just said Morse was playing dirty and mentioned a name. Randall again. Randall Burke, the guy who sued Henshaw and Morse years ago. Saul's lead was looking hotter. Good stuff, I said. One more thing. A woman was seen at Morse's gala. Tall, dark hair, red dress. She handed him a drink before he died. Sound like anyone. You know, maybe someone near your father's penthouse the night he was killed. Clara's eyes widened. A woman? Maybe. The night Father died, I saw a lady in the lobby as I left. Tall, dark hair, wearing a scarf. I didn't think much of it. She looked like she belonged. Could it be her? My pulse jumped. Maybe. Did she act strange, nervous? Clara shook her head. She was calm, checking her phone. I was too upset to notice more. I wrote it down. Woman, lobby, scarf. You're doing great, Clara. If you remember anything else about her, call me. I'll check the safe today and keep you posted. Shoo managed a small smile. Thank you, Mr. Goodwin. I feel better knowing Mr. Wolfe's on this. I paid for her coffee, tipped the waitress, and headed out. The safe was my next stop. But first, I wanted to chase this woman. Clara's sighting, plus Fred's at the gala, made her a real lead. I called Saul from a payphone, catching him at his apartment. Saul, it's Archie, I said. Got a woman in play. Tall, dark hair, seen at Henshaw's building and Morse's. Gala. Clara spotted her in the lobby, scarf, calm. Fred saw her in a red dress, handing Morse a drink. You dig anything on a lady tied to Burke or Henshaw? Saul's voice was sharp. Not yet, but Burke's file mentions a sister, Laura Burke, who worked as a secretary for Henshaw Industries 5 years ago. Left after the lawsuit. No current address, but she fits. Tall, dark hair. I'm hunting Burke's old haunts. Might find her too. Gold star, Saul, I said. If she's Laura, she's got motive, her brother's grudge. Keep me posted. I hung up, my mind racing. Laura Burke, sister of Randall, could be our mystery woman. Revenge for the lawsuit? Maybe she was the Phantom, or working with him. I needed more, so I headed to Park Avenue to hit Henshaw's penthouse again. The doorman, Jerry, waved me up. Cops were back this morning, he said. Looked mad. They're always mad, I grinned, taking the elevator to the penthouse. The place was still grand, marble, art, big windows, but the study felt heavy, like death lingered, ducked under the police tape, went to the safe behind the ship painting, and spun the dial, 12 to 28:45. It clicked open. Inside was a stack of cash, some bonds, and a small key, but no journal. I pocketed the key. It looked like it fit a lockbox, and closed the safe. The desk was the same. Papers neat, but I checked the drawers again. Tucked under a blotter was a receipt, dated last week, for a diner on Bleecker Street. Scribbled. On it was RB 8 p.m. Randall Burke. I kept it, hoping it was a clue. I scanned the room. A photo on the shelf showed Henshaw and Morse at a ribbon cutting, both smiling, but their eyes were cold. Business partners, not friends. I checked the phone's call log. Nothing new. The Phantom was clean, leaving no trace except his notes. Next, stop. The diner on Bleecker in Greenwich Village. It was a dive, sticky floors, and a jukebox playing old tunes. The waitress, a redhead named Maggie, looked bored. I showed her the receipt and my card. "Know anything about this?" I asked. "Guy named Randall. Maybe meeting Victor Henshaw last week?" Maggie squinted. "Yeah, I remember. Big shot in a suit. Henshaw, maybe. Met a scruffy guy. Thin. Nervous. They talked low, looked tense. Scruffy guy left fast, didn't eat. That's all I got. Scruffy guy. Tall, short. Any woman with him?" I pressed. "Medium height, dark coat," she said. "No woman, sorry." I tipped her $1 and left. Randall Burke, nervous, meeting Henshaw. No journal, but a key and a receipt. Progress, but the phantom was still a ghost. Back at the brownstone, it was 3 o'clock. Fritz was baking bread, the smell making my stomach growl. I typed my notes, then called Ori. He was outside Crane's office. "She's spooked," Ori said. "Caught her leaving work, asked about Henshaw. She said he was reckless with deals and fired her when she warned him. Mentioned a woman, though, someone Henshaw met secretly. Dark hair, sharp dresser. Crane clammed up after that." "Sharp dresser," I repeated. "Sounds like our gal. Stay on Crane, Ori. She's cracking." I hung up, buzzing. The woman, Laura Burke, kept popping up. I needed to find her. Wolfe came down at 4, settling into his chair with a beer. I gave him the rundown, Clara's info, the safe's contents, the receipt, Maggie's story, Ori's lead on Crane's secret woman. Wolfe leaned back, eyes half closed. The key is intriguing. A lockbox, perhaps, holding the journal or other secrets. This woman, Laura Burke, if Saul is correct, connects both murders. She may be an accomplice, delivering poison, watching Henshaw's building. "Or the phantom," I said. "A woman could stab, poison, write those notes." Wolfe grunted. "Possible, but the signature's flourish suggests a male ego. Still, we keep her central. The receipt places Burke with Henshaw recently, confirming his relevance. Archie tomorrow. Take the key to Henshaw's bank. Check for a lockbox. Then visit Bleecker Street again. Ask about Laura Burke." "Got it," I said. "What about the team?" "Saul will find Burke," Wolfe said. "Fred's watching the gala staff. Ori's pressure on Crane is working. We meet tonight, 7. Now, leave me to think." I grinned, knowing think meant read and drink beer. I headed to my desk, typed more notes, and called Clara to check in. She had nothing new, but sounded steadier. Good. She'd need strength if the phantom came for her. By 6, Fritz was cooking. Lamb chops, mashed potatoes, green beans. The smell was heaven, but my mind was on the case. The team rolled in at 7. Saul, Fred, Ori, all looking beat but ready. Saul went first. "Found Burke's old address," he said. "Apartment in Brooklyn, empty now. Neighbour says he had a sister, Laura, who visited often. She moved out 2 years ago, no trace. But Burke was seen last month, skulking around Henshaw's office." Fred shrugged. "Gala staff's a bust. Waiters swear they didn't spike Morse's drink. I'm checking their backgrounds tomorrow." Ori smirked. "Crane's nervous. Followed her to a bar. Overheard her call someone about keeping quiet. She's in deep, maybe with the woman." Wolfe sipped his beer, nodding. "Laura Burke is our pivot. She links Burke, Henshaw, Morse. Archie's key may unlock her. Motive, continue as assigned. We are close, gentlemen, but the phantom is cunning. Speed is vital." The team left, and I locked up, my head spinning. Laura Burke, the red dress woman, was no ghost. She was real, and we were on her trail. The Phantom's game was getting tighter, but Wolfe's brain was sharper. I just hoped we'd nab her before another note turned up. Dinner was quiet. Wolfe, savouring his lamb while I chewed on the case. The brownstone felt safe, but outside, the Phantom was plotting. I checked my gun, just in case, and went to bed dreaming of a woman in a red dress, her face hidden in shadow. Chapter 5. Orchids and Deduction. The brownstone's greenhouse was a jungle of colour, but I wasn't here to admire flowers. It was 10 in the morning, and I'd just come back from a bank on Park Avenue, my head buzzing with the Phantom Killer's latest puzzle. Upstairs, Nero Wolfe stood among his orchids, a giant in a yellow smock, clipping stems with the focus of a surgeon. His round face was calm, but I knew his brain was chewing on the case. 2 murders, Victor Henshaw and Leonard Morse, both tagged with notes from the Phantom. My job was to keep the facts flowing so Wolfe could crack this nut. I leaned against a bench, careful not to bump his precious plants. "Boss, I hit the bank," I said. "Used the key from Henshaw's safe. It opened a lockbox, but no journal, just some old letters and a photo of a young guy, maybe 20, labelled RB on the back. Randall Burke, you think?" Wolfe didn't look up, snipping a wilted leaf. "Possibly. Describe the letters." 5 of them. Typed, no dates, I said, pulling my notebook. "They're threats, unsigned, telling Henshaw to pay what you owe or face justice. Vague but nasty. The photo's faded. Shows a skinny kid with dark hair, smirking. I left everything with the bank clerk. Cops might want it," Wolfe grunted, setting down his clippers. "Threats without a signature. Curious. The Phantom's notes are bold. Signed. These letters suggest an earlier grudge, perhaps Burke's. What else?" I flipped a page. "Stopped by the Bleecker Street diner again, like you said. Asked about Laura Burke, Randall's sister. Waitress Maggie remembered her. Tall, dark hair. Used to come in with Randall a year ago. Haven't seen her since. Maggie said Laura was quiet, always watching people like she was casing the place." Wolfe's eyes narrowed, a sign he was hooked. "Laura Burke. She appears at Henshaw's building, Morse's gala, and now the diner. Her role grows clearer. Accomplice, perhaps, or more. Your thoughts, Archie?" I shrugged. "She's in deep. Maybe she's the Phantom, dressing flashy, to distract us, or she's helping Randall get revenge for that old lawsuit. Those letters point to him holding a big grudge." Wolfe wiped his hands on a towel, frowning. "The Phantom's signature is theatrical, male in its bravado. A woman could mimic it, but Laura's actions, delivering poison, watching, suggest support, not leadership. We need her motive. Randall Burke is central, yet hidden. His sister is our bridge." He shuffled to a bench, sat, and stared at a purple orchid like it held answers. I knew this mood. Wolfe was about to unravel something. "Archie," he said, "the murders are not random. Henshaw and Morse shared a sin, likely tied to Burke's lawsuit. The Phantom's notes are a taunt, but his method, knife, poison, shows control. This is personal, not profit. We must find the root." I nodded, jotting it down. "So, dig into Henshaw's past, like Saul's doing. What's my next move?" Wolfe's lips twitched. Return to Clara Henshaw. Ask about her father's history with Burke, any personal ties beyond business. Then check Henshaw's office at his company. Look for records of the lawsuit or Laura Burke's employment. Speed is vital. The Phantom will not wait. I tipped my hat. On it, boss. Team's reporting tonight, right? 7 o'clock, Wolfe said, picking up a watering can. Now, leave me. These orchids need care, and I need peace. I grinned and headed downstairs, the greenhouse's humid air clinging to my coat. Fritz was in the kitchen, kneading dough, the smell of fresh bread making my stomach rumble. I grabbed a roll, dodged his playful swat, and called Clara from the office. She agreed to meet at her apartment at noon. Then I dialed Saul, catching him at a library, digging through old news. Saul, any luck on Burke? I asked. Some, he said, voice low. Lawsuit was messy. Burke and Morse accused Henshaw of cheating them on a steel contract. Court sided with Henshaw, bankrupted Burke. Papers mentioned Laura Burke testifying. She worked for Henshaw, saw the deal go sour. She quit after, dropped off the map. I'm checking her last known job. Solid, I said. Wolfe thinks the murders are personal. Ask about Henshaw's life, not just business, friends, fights, anything with Burke or Laura. Got it, Saul said. See you at 7. I hung up, grabbed my coat, and hit the street. Clara's apartment was a tidy place on East 72nd, with doormen who eyed me like I might steal the rugs. She let me in, looking pale but steady, dressed in a simple blue skirt. Her living room was cosy, with books and a photo of her and Henshaw. On a beach, smiling, Mr. Goodwin, she said, offering tea. Any news? Some, I said, sitting on a plush couch. We're chasing Randall Burke and his sister Laura. Your dad's lockbox had letters, threats, maybe from Randall. Can you think of anything personal between your father and the Burkes? Not business, something deeper. Clara frowned, stirring her tea. Personal. Father never talked about the Burkes, but there was something. Years ago, when I was a kid, Father had a friend, a young man he treated like a son. They fell out over money, I think. Father called him Randall once, when he was mad. I was too young to understand. My pulse jumped. Randall, like Burke? How long ago? 10 years, maybe, she said. Father stopped mentioning him. Could it be the same Randall? Could be, I said, scribbling. What about Laura Burke? Worked for your dad's company, tall, dark hair. Ever meet her? Clara shook her head. No, but Father had lots of secretaries. He didn't always trust them. Once, he said someone in the office stole papers. He was paranoid after that. I leaned forward. Stole papers? When? About 5 years ago, she said. Around the lawsuit, I think. Bingo. Laura Burke in Henshaw's office, maybe swiping deal secrets. I thanked Clara, told her to stay safe, and headed to Henshaw Industries office downtown. The building was a steel tower, all glass and sharp angles. A receptionist, a blonde with a tight smile, let me in after I flashed my card and mentioned Clara's name. Henshaw's office was on the top floor, a big space with a view of the skyline. His desk was cleared, but file cabinets lined the walls. I started digging, flipping through folders labeled contracts, legal, personnel. In the personnel file, I found Laura Burke's record. Hired as a secretary, 6 years. Ago quit after the lawsuit. Her photo showed a tall woman, dark hair, sharp eyes. I pocketed a copy. In the legal file, I hit gold. A report on the Burke-Morse lawsuit. It detailed how Henshaw outmaneuvered them, winning the case but ruining Burke. A handwritten note in Henshaw's scrawl read, "RB won't forgive. Watch him." I kept that too. The office was quiet, but I felt watched. A janitor mopping. The hall gave me a hard stare as I left. I noted his face. Thin grey hair, shifty eyes. Probably nothing, but the phantom had me jumpy. Back at the brownstone it was 5. Fritz was roasting chicken, the smell pure heaven. I typed my notes, then called Orry. He was tailing Crane, the lawyer. "Crane's rattled," Orry said. "Met a guy today, nervous type, at a cafe. They whispered about the deal and keeping her out. I didn't see his face, but Crane's scared. She's hiding something big. Nice, I said. Bring it to Wolfe tonight." Fred called next, sounding glum. "Gala staff's clean, Archie. No criminal records, no ties to Morse. I'm checking delivery guys tomorrow." "Keep at it," I said, hanging up. The pieces were piling up, but the phantom was still a shadow. At 7, the team gathered in the office. Wolfe sat with a beer, eyes sharp despite his relaxed pose. I went first, laying out Clara's story about Randall as a son to Henshaw, Laura's personnel file, the lawsuit report, and the lockbox letters. I showed the photo of young RB, passing it around. Saul nodded. "That's Randall Burke, younger. I found a bar he used to hit in Brooklyn. Bartender says he was bitter, always ranting about Henshaw. Laura was there sometimes, quiet but intense. No recent sightings." Fred shrugged. "Nothing new. Staff's a dead end." Orry grinned. "Crane's guy at the cafe? I got a name, Paul Randall. Maybe a cousin of Burke's. She's definitely in with someone." Wolfe sipped his beer, thinking. Randall Burke, a betrayed protégé. Laura, his loyal sister. The letters show his rage, the murders his revenge. Henshaw and Morse crushed him, and now he strikes back as the phantom. Laura aids him, perhaps unwittingly. The note in Henshaw's file, "RB won't forgive," is our anchor. He leaned forward, eyes gleaming. "Archie, tomorrow, find Paul Randall. He may lead to Burke. Saul, search that Brooklyn bar for Laura's traces. Fred, focus on delivery records from the gala. Poison came from somewhere. Orry, confront Crane with Paul's name. We are close, but the phantom is cunning. We must act fast." The team nodded, ready to roll. As they left, I locked the office, my mind on Randall Burke's smirk in that old photo. He wasn't a kid anymore. He was a killer, and Laura was his shadow. Wolfe's deduction had lit the path, but the phantom was still out there, plotting. His next move. Dinner was quiet. Fritz's chicken, a masterpiece I barely tasted. Wolfe ate slowly, his mind on the case. I checked my gun before bed, a habit now. The brownstone was safe, but the city wasn't. Somewhere, the phantom was sharpening his knife, and we were running out of time. Chapter 6. The Third Warning. The brownstone's office was a fortress of calm, but my gut was anything but. It was late afternoon, 3 days after Leonard Morse's poisoning, and the phantom killer was still a step ahead. Nero Wolfe sat behind his desk sipping beer, his eyes half closed as he mulled over our leads. Victor Henshaw, stabbed. Morse, poisoned. Both hit with notes signed The Phantom. Randall Burke, a bitter ex-protégé, and his sister Laura, the mystery woman, were our top suspects. I'd just come back from chasing a new name. Paul Randall, maybe Burke's cousin. And my head was spinning with questions. The phone rang. Sharp and ugly. I grabbed it. Nero Wolfe's residence. Archie Goodwin speaking. "Archie, it's Kramer," Inspector Kramer growled, his voice like gravel. "Another body. Judge Henry Caldwell, strangled in his study last night. Phantom note pinned to his shirt. Get down here, West 68th Street, and tell Wolfe I'm done waiting for his games." My stomach dropped. A third murder? I glanced at Wolfe, who was watching me, his face tight. "On my way, Inspector," I said, hanging up. "Boss, trouble. Judge Caldwell, strangled, another. Phantom note. Kramer's steaming. I'm headed to the scene." Wolfe set down his beer, frowning. "Caldwell, the name is familiar. Go, Archie. Observe the body, the note, the room. Question witnesses. This third strike may reveal the Phantom's purpose. Report tonight, 7. I grabbed my coat and hat, my pulse racing. 3 murders in a week, all linked by those creepy notes. The Phantom was bold, and Kramer was ready to blow. I hailed a cab to West 68th, the city a blur of grey skies and honking horns. The judge's townhouse was a brick beauty, but cop cars and flashing lights ruined the charm. A crowd gawked behind barriers, whispering about the Phantom killer. I flashed my card to a cop, who let me through. Inside, the house was old money. Dark wood, thick rugs, books everywhere. Kramer stood in the study, chewing an unlit cigar, his face red. Judge Caldwell lay on the floor, a thin man in his 60s, his tie knotted tight around his neck. His eyes bulged, his face purple. A note was pinned to his shirt, same as before. Thick paper, typed, "The Phantom claims his due," signed in black, ink bold and loopy. "Strangled with his own tie," Kramer said, glaring at me. "No prints, no struggle, no witnesses, notes identical to the others. What's Wolfe got, Goodwin? 3 bodies, and you're chasing shadows." I kept my cool, grinning. "Wolfe's thinking, Inspector. I'm here to look. Let me see the scene, and I'll share what I can." Kramer snorted, but stepped aside. I crouched by the body, careful not to touch. The tie was silk, tied in a neat knot, like the killer took his time. The desk was tidy, papers, a pen, a glass of water. A photo showed Caldwell with a younger man, both smiling. I noted it. Possible relative? The trash can was empty, the windows locked. The Phantom was clean as always. I checked the note again. Same typeface, same signature. This guy loved his routine. I asked Kramer, time of death. "Doc says between 9 and 11 last night," he said. "Maid found him this morning. Nobody heard a thing." I nodded, scanning the room. A bookshelf held legal books, one titled Notable Trials of 2015. It caught my eye. 5 years ago, the time of Burke's lawsuit. I pulled it, flipped to the index, and found a case. Henshaw Industries versus Burke and Morse. Caldwell was the judge. My gut twisted. All 3 victims, Henshaw, Morse, Caldwell, were tied to that case. "Kramer," I said, holding up the book. "This trial. Henshaw, Morse, and Caldwell were all part of it. Burke lost, went broke. That's your link." Kramer's eyes widened, then narrowed. "Burke? You got a name and you didn't tell me." "News to me too." I lied, keeping Wolfe's cards close. I'll check with Wolfe. Can I talk to the maid? He waved me to the kitchen, where a young woman, Ellie, sat shaking. She said Caldwell was quiet, worked late, had no visitors. Last night. She saw a woman in a dark coat near the house a week ago. Tall, dark hair, but didn't get a good look. Laura Burke again. I thanked her, my mind racing. Outside, I called Saul from a payphone. Saul, big break. Judge Caldwell's dead, strangled phantom note. He presided over Burke's lawsuit. Henshaw, Morse, Caldwell, all tied to that trial. You got anything on Burke or Laura? Saul whistled. That's the thread. Found Burke's, old bar buddy. Says Randall was obsessed with the trial, blamed Caldwell for a rigged ruling. Laura was angrier, swore she'd make them pay. No address yet, but I'm close. Gold, I said. Get to the brownstone by 7. Back at the brownstone it was 5. Fritz was cooking, steak, potatoes, peas, the smell making my mouth water. I typed my notes, then called Ori. He was outside Crane's apartment. Cracking, Ori said, smug. Confronted her about Paul Randall. She froze, said he's a nobody, but her hands shook. She's meeting him tonight. I'm tailing her. Nice, I said. Bring it to Wolfe. Fred called, sounding tired. Gala delivery guy's shady. Dropped off extra bottles. No record. I'm digging into his contacts. Good, I said, hanging up. The trial was the key, and Laura Burke was circling every crime. At 6, I checked in with Clara Henshaw. She was shaken by Caldwell's death, but remembered something. Her father once said Caldwell was too fair in the Burke trial, like he regretted the outcome. Another clue tying them together. Wolfe came down at 6:30, settling into his chair with a beer. I gave him the rundown. Caldwell's strangling, the note, the trial book, Ellie's mystery woman, Saul's bar lead, Ori's tale on Crane, Fred's delivery guy. I showed him the photo from Caldwell's desk, passing it over. Wolfe studied, it frowning. The trial is the heart. Henshaw cheated Burke, Morse betrayed him. Caldwell sealed his ruin. Randall Burke or Laura seeks vengeance. This woman, Laura, haunts each scene. She is no mastermind, but her role is vital. He leaned back, eyes gleaming. The phantom's notes are a mask. He kills to punish, not to profit. The trial was a wound, and Burke is the scar. Archie tomorrow, join Ori at Crane's meeting with Paul Randall. He may lead to Burke. Saul will find Laura. Fred, continue on the delivery. We must close this net. I nodded, scribbling. You think Burke's the phantom, or is Laura pulling strings? Wolfe grunted. Randall's rage fits the phantom's ego, the notes, the drama. Laura aids him, perhaps out of loyalty. The photo, compare it to Burke's. If it matches, we have our man. The team rolled in at 7. Saul, Fred, Ori, all business. Saul went first. Bar Buddy confirmed Laura's vow to make them pay. She was at the trial daily, taking notes. Randall was broken, leaned on her. They're tight, like a team. Fred shrugged. Delivery guy's name's Tommy. Shady past, small-time thief. I'm checking if he knew Burke. Ori grinned. Crane's meeting Paul Randall at a dive. Bar 9 tonight. I'll be there, Archie. We'll nab him. Wolfe sipped his beer, nodding. The trial binds them. Burke's pain, Laura's loyalty, a shared mission. Paul Randall is a link. Cousin, perhaps, or ally. Archie, Ori, be cautious. The Phantom is desperate, and desperate men are dangerous. The team left, and I locked up, my head full of the trial's shadow. Caldwell's purple face, that tight tie, the note's bold signature. The Phantom was screaming his pain, and we were close to his throat. I checked my gun, a reflex now, and typed my notes. The typewriter's clack steadying. My nerves. Dinner was steak, juicy and perfect, but I barely tasted it. Wolfe ate slowly, his mind on the case. Fritz cleared the plates, humming, oblivious to the storm brewing outside. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Randall Burke, Laura, the trial, it all fit. But the Phantom was slippery. 3 bodies, 3 notes, and we were racing the clock to stop a 4th. I went to bed. The photo of young R.B. burned in my mind. His smirk was the Phantom's, I was sure. Tomorrow, with Ori, I'd chase Paul Randall and maybe catch the ghost himself. The brownstone was quiet, but the city wasn't. Somewhere, the Phantom was plotting, and we had to be faster. Chapter 7. The Elusive Woman. The night was cold, and my nerves were colder. It was 9 o'clock, and I was with Ori Cather outside a dive bar on the Lower East Side, waiting to nab Paul Randall, a possible cousin of Randall Burke, our prime Phantom killer suspect. 3 murders, Victor Henshaw, Leonard Morse, Judge Henry Caldwell, all tied to a bitter trial 5 years ago, all marked by notes signed The Phantom. Laura Burke, Randall's sister, kept popping up. At Henshaw's, building Morse's Gala, maybe Caldwell's Street. Tonight, Ori had tracked Evelyn Crane, Henshaw's ex-lawyer, to this bar for a meeting with Paul. If we grabbed him, we might find Laura and the Phantom. The bar was a grimy hole, neon sign flickering, smelling of beer and sweat. Ori, tall and cocky, leaned against a lamppost, his hat tilted. "Crane's inside," he whispered. "Saw her go in 10 minutes ago, nervous as a cat. Paul's got a show soon." I nodded, scanning the street. "Keep sharp, Ori. If Paul's tied to Burke, he's dangerous. And watch for Laura. Tall, dark hair, moves like she owns the place." We waited, the city humming around us. Taxis, laughter, a distant siren. At 9:15, a man slipped into the bar. Short, thin, dark coat, hat low. Ori nudged me. "That's him. Matches Crane's description from the cafe." We eased inside, sticking to the shadows. The bar was dim, packed with loud drinkers, a jukebox blaring. Crane sat at a corner table, her blonde hair catching the light, her hands twisting a napkin. The man, Paul Randall, we hoped, sat across from her, his back to us. I caught snippets of their talk. "Keep quiet. She's watching." "Je te déconne. Plan." My gut said she was Laura. I signalled Ori to circle around. We needed to grab Paul without spooking Crane. I edged closer, pretending to order a drink, my ear on their table. Crane's voice was shaky. "Paul, I told you, I'm out. She's crazy, and I won't—" "Shut it," Paul hissed. "You're in too deep. Do what she says, or you're next." I froze. Laura was calling shots. Before I could move, a woman slipped through the crowd. Tall, dark hair, red scarf, eyes sharp. Laura Burke. She didn't see us heading for Crane's table. Ori was too far, so I acted fast, stepping toward her. "Miss Burke," I said, loud enough to startle. "Archie Goodwin, private investigator. We need to talk." Laura's eyes locked on mine, cold and quick. She spun, dodging a drunk, and bolted for the back door. I chased, shoving through the crowd, Ori shouting behind me. The alley was dark, wet from rain, and Laura was fast, her coat flapping. I sprinted, gaining, but she ducked into a side street and vanished like smoke. My lungs burned as I stopped, cursing. She was gone. Back inside, Ori had Paul by the arm, but Crane was slipping out the front. "Let her go," I panted, joining him. "We got Paul. Laura's in the wind." Paul was scrawny, with a weasel face and nervous eyes. "I ain't done nothing," he whined as we pulled him to a quiet corner. "Let me go." "Talk," I said, looming over him. "You're Paul Randall, right? Tied to Randall Burke. What's your deal with Laura and Crane?" Paul's eyes darted. "I don't know Burke. Crane's just a friend." "I'm clean," Ori smirked, twisting Paul's arm. "Lie again, pal, and you'll limp home. We know you're in with the Phantom. Spill it." Paul squirmed, then sagged. Okay. I'm Paul Randall. Yeah, Randall Burke's my cousin. He's messed up, hates Henshaw and them for the trial. Laura's his sister, runs things. She told Crane to keep quiet about some old deal. I just passed messages." My pulse jumped. "Laura's the boss? Where's Randall? Is he the Phantom?" Paul shook his head. "Laura's not the boss, but she's fierce. Randall's the one with the plan. Crazy notes, killings. I don't know where he is, I swear. Laura meets him, not me." I pressed harder. "Where's Laura now? She was just here." "Greenwich Village," Paul mumbled. "Some apartment, don't know the address. She moves a lot." Ori looked at me. "We got enough, Archie. Let's take him to Wolfe." I nodded, but Paul yanked free, diving under a table. Ori lunged, but Paul scurried through the crowd and out the door. I cursed again. We'd lost both of them. "Come on," I said. "Back to the brownstone. Wolfe needs this now." The cab ride was tense, Ori griping about Paul's escape. I was mad too, but Laura's face, those sharp eyes, stuck with me. She wasn't just helping Randall, she was neck-deep in this. At the brownstone, it was 10:30. Fritz was in bed, the house dark except for the office, where Wolfe sat with a beer, reading a book on orchids. "Rough night?" he asked, eyeing our faces. "Understatement," I said, dropping into my chair. I spilled it all. Crane's meeting, Paul's confession, Laura's appearance and escape, the Greenwich Village lead. Paul says Randall's the Phantom, writing. Notes killing. Laura's his right hand, maybe more. We lost them both, but we're close. Wolfe leaned back, eyes half closed. Laura Burke, elusive yet ever-present. Paul's words confirm Randall's rage, the trial's wound. The Phantom's notes are his signature, but Laura's actions, delivering poison, watching, suggest a partnership. Greenwich Village is our next step. I nodded, jotting it down. Paul said Laura runs things, but Randall's the brains. You think she's just loyal, or is she pushing him? Wolfe sipped his beer, thinking. Loyalty, perhaps, twisted by shared pain. The trial ruined them both. Randall's dreams, Laura's trust. She aids his vengeance, but her boldness, fleeing you, meeting Crane, hints at her own stakes. We need her motive. He set down his glass. Call Saul. He was tracing Laura in Brooklyn. Redirect him to Greenwich Village. Check apartments, bars, any sign of her. You, Archie, visit Crane tomorrow. She's frightened. Use that. Ori, find Paul Randall. Fred's delivery lead may still bear fruit. I dialed Saul, waking him. Saul, Laura's in Greenwich Village, per Paul Randall. Forget Brooklyn. Check apartments, dives, anything. Report tomorrow. Got it, Saul said, yawning. I'm on it. Ori stretched, smirking. I'll nab Paul. He's too dumb to hide long. Wolfe grunted. Speed is critical. The Phantom's pace, 3 murders in days, means he's driven, reckless. Laura is our key. Find her, and Randall follows. Ori left, and I locked, up, my head pounding. Laura's escape stung, but Paul's slip gave us a map. I typed my notes, the typewriter's clack grounding me. Fritz had left cocoa in the kitchen. I sipped it, thinking of Laura's cold eyes. She wasn't the Phantom, but she was close, maybe closer than Randall knew. The next morning, I was up at 8, Fritz's pancakes fueling me. Wolfe was in the greenhouse, so I called Crane's office. Her secretary said she was out, but I'd try her apartment later. I headed to Greenwich Village, figuring I'd scout while Saul dug deeper. The village was a maze of narrow streets, coffee shops, and artists' lofts. I checked a few bars, showing Laura's photo from Henshaw's files. A bartender at a jazz joint nodded. Seen her, he said. Couple weeks ago with a guy. Thin, dark hair, jumpy. They argued, left fast. She's got a place nearby, I think, on Jones Street. I tipped him and hit Jones Street, a quiet block of brownstones. No luck. Nobody answered doors, and Laura's photo drew blanks. I left a note for Saul at a corner store, telling him to focus here, then headed to Crane's apartment on the Upper West Side. Crane's building was fancy, with a doorman who didn't like my face. I sweet-talked my way in, claiming a delivery. Crane's door was on the 5th floor. I knocked and she opened it, pale, her blonde hair messy. "Mr. Goodwin," she said, voice shaky. "What do you want?" "Answers," I said, stepping inside. Her place was neat, but her eyes were scared. "You met Paul Randall last night. He's tied to Randall and Laura Burke, the Phantom's crew. Talk, or I tell Kramer you're hiding a killer's pals." Crane sank onto a couch, trembling. "I didn't know they'd kill. I was Henshaw's lawyer, handled the Burke trial. It was dirty. Henshaw bribed witnesses, Morse lied, Caldwell looked the other way. Laura worked for us, saw it all. She quit, furious. Years later she came back, said she had proof of the fraud. I helped her dig. Old files, emails. Then the murders started. I got scared, tried to back out. My pulse raced. Proof? Where is it? Laura has it, Crane said. Documents, recordings. She's using them to push Randall. He's unhinged, calls himself the Phantom. Laura says it's justice, but it's revenge. Where's Laura? I demanded. I don't know, Crane whispered. She moves, never stays put. Paul's her messenger. That's all I know. I believed her. She was too rattled to lie. Stay here, I said. Kramer's coming for you if you run. I left, my mind spinning. Laura wasn't just helping. She was driving Randall with proof of the trial's corruption. The Phantom's notes, his killings, were her evidence turned deadly. Back at the brownstone, it was 4. Fritz was baking. The smell of cookies, a brief comfort. I typed my notes then, called Wolfe, who was with his orchids. "Boss, Crane spilled. Laura's got proof the trial was fixed. Bribes, lies, the works. She's pushing Randall, who's the Phantom. No address yet, but Saul's on Jones Street." Wolfe's voice was calm. "Excellent. Laura is the spark, Randall the flame. Find her and the Phantom falls. Meet the team tonight, 7. We close this trap." I hung up, ready for the fight. Laura Burke wasn't a ghost anymore. She was real, and we were on her heels. The Phantom's game was crumbling, and Wolfe was ready to end it. Dinner was cookies and coffee, my stomach too knotted for more. Wolfe ate in silence, his mind on the case. The brownstone was safe, but outside, Laura and Randall were moving. I checked my gun, feeling the weight. Tonight, we'd plan the final chase, and the Phantom would have nowhere to hide. Chapter 8. Kramer's Confrontation. The brownstone's office was a warm bubble against the October chill, but trouble was about to burst it. It was 6 in the evening, and I was at my desk, typing notes on our hunt for the Phantom Killer. 3 murders: Victor Henshaw, Leonard Morse, Judge Henry Caldwell, each marked by a note signed The Phantom. Randall Burke, a vengeful loser of a rigged trial, was our prime suspect, with his sister Laura Burke as his shadow, pushing him with proof of the trial's fraud. Evelyn Crane, Henshaw's ex-lawyer, had spilled about the dirty deal, and we were closing in on Laura's hideout in Greenwich Village. Nero Wolfe was upstairs, probably grumbling over his orchids, but I knew he was piecing it all together. The doorbell buzzed loud and angry. I checked the one-way glass and saw Inspector Kramer, red-faced, hat crumpled in his fist. He looked ready to punch a wall. Or me. I opened the door, grinning to keep things light. "Evening, Inspector. Come to borrow a beer." "Stuff it. Goodwin," Kramer growled, storming past me. "Where's Wolfe? I'm done with his games. 3 bodies, and you're holding out. I want answers now." I led him to the office, keeping cool. "Wolfe's upstairs, but I'll get him. Take a seat, cool off. Want coffee? Fritz makes it strong." Kramer plopped into the red leather chair, glaring. "No coffee. Get Wolfe, or I drag you both to the station." I hit the buzzer for Wolfe, then called upstairs. "Boss, Kramer's here steaming. Says we're hiding stuff. You coming down?" Wolfe's voice was a low grumble. "Confound that man." "Very well, 5 minutes. Offer him a drink and keep him civil." I poured Kramer a glass of water. Beer would have been pushing it, and sat at my desk. "Kramer, we're chasing the same guy. 3 murders, same notes, linked to a trial 5 years ago. We're close, but we need facts, not guesses." Kramer leaned forward, eyes like knives. "You knew about the trial? Caldwell's book, Burke's lawsuit. My boys found it too, but you didn't share. What else you got? Names? Leads? Give me something, or I swear I'll—" The door opened, and Wolfe shuffled in, a mountain in a grey suit. He eased into his chair, clasped his hands over his belly, and fixed Kramer with a calm stare. "Inspector, your temper is tiresome. We are engaged by Miss Clara Henshaw to find her father's killer. Our findings are hers, not yours. If you wish cooperation, state your case." Kramer's face went purple. "Cooperation? You've got names, Burke, his sister, maybe this Paul Randall. My men are drowning in dead ends, and you're sitting on evidence. I could charge you with obstruction." Wolfe's lips twitched, a tiny smile. "Charge away, Inspector. You have no proof. We pursue Randall Burke, yes, and Laura Burke, his sister. Their motive lies in a trial. Henshaw, Morse, and Caldwell ruined them. We have no address, no confession. Share your findings, and we may reciprocate." Kramer chewed his unlit cigar, fuming. "Fine. Lab says the notes are typed on. An old Remington, no prints. Caldwell's tie was knotted with a sailor's knot. Odd for a city killer. We're checking Burke's past for naval ties. Your turn." Wolfe nodded, eyes gleaming. "A sailor's knot? Intriguing. Archie, the notes. Show the inspector. Adieu. Pulled the plastic bags with the Phantom's notes from the drawer, passing them over. Kramer studied them, grunting. "Same as ours. Typed, signed, cocky. You got anything on this?" Wolfe leaned back, eyes half closed. "Observe the typed. Text, Inspector. The alignment is uneven, the E slightly raised. An old machine, as you say, but the spacing is deliberate. Count the characters in 'The Phantom Claims His Due.' 22, excluding spaces. Now, the trial's case number, Henshaw versus Burke, 2015. It was 15 CV 2201. The 22 is no coincidence." Kramer blinked, caught off guard. "A code? You're saying the note's a jab at the trial?" "Precisely," Wolfe said. "The Phantom taunts us with his motive. The trial is his wound, and he embeds it in his signature. Randall Burke or Laura knows this number well. It seals their intent." I whistled low. Wolfe's brain was a marvel, spotting what I'd missed. Kramer scribbled in his notebook, still grumpy but impressed. "Okay, Wolfe, that's something. What about Laura Burke? My boys heard she's in Greenwich Village." Wolfe's eyes narrowed. "Laura is elusive. She was seen at each crime. Henshaw's building, Morse's gala, near Caldwell's home. She aids Randall, possibly with proof of the trial's fraud, as Miss Crane revealed. We seek her in Greenwich Village, yes. Your men may join the hunt, but do not interfere." Kramer stood, jamming his hat on. "I'm watching you, Wolfe. Find Burke, or I'll haul you in. Goodwin, stay out of my crime scenes." He stormed out, slamming the door. I grinned at Wolfe. "You poked the bear, boss. Nice catch on the code. That 22 ties it tight." Wolfe grunted, sipping his beer. "The Phantom is clever, but his ego betrays him. The code is a flourish, meant to mock. Laura's role grows clearer. She is no mere helper. Her presence at each murder suggests intent. Archie, your report?" I leaned back, flipping my notebook. "Crane's scared. Says Laura's got documents, bribes, lies from the trial. She's pushing Randall, who's unhinged, calling himself the Phantom. Paul Randall, their cousin, slipped us last night, but he said Laura's in Greenwich Village, maybe Jones Street. I scouted today, got a lead. A bartender saw her with a jumpy guy, likely Randall, arguing. Saul's digging deeper. Wolfe nodded, eyes sharp. Laura is the key. She fuels Randall's rage with evidence. The trial's fraud, bribes, perjury drove them to this. Your next move?" "Hit Crane again," I said. "She's cracking. Might know Laura's hideout. Then back to Jones Street with Saul. Orries, after Paul. Fred's on the gala delivery guy." "Good," Wolfe said. "Call Saul now. Redirect him to Jones Street's apartments. Speed is critical. The Phantom's pace is relentless." I dialed Saul, catching him at a village cafe. Saul, focus on Jones Street. Apartments, lofts, anything. Laura's there, maybe with Randall. Report tonight, 7. On it, Saul said, his voice all business. Wolfe set down his beer. Tonight we refine our trap. Laura's proof, if found, will expose the trial's rot and Randall's motive. We must act before another note appears. I nodded, typing my notes. Fritz poked his head in, offering sandwiches, but I waved him off. My stomach was knotted, thinking of Laura's sharp eyes, the sailor's knot, that coded note. The Phantom was playing a deadly game, and we were running out of moves. The team rolled in at 7. Saul, Fred, Ori, ready to report. Saul went first. Jones Street's tough. Lots of rentals, no names. Found a landlord who saw a woman like Laura, renting under L. Burns. Paid cash, keeps to herself. I'm checking the lease tomorrow. Fred shrugged. Delivery guy, Tommy, has a rap sheet. Petty theft, no murder. But he bought a typewriter last month, old Remington. Could be our note machine. Ori smirked. Paul Randall's hiding, but I got a tip. He's crashing with a pal in Brooklyn. I'm raiding it tomorrow. Wolfe sipped his beer, nodding. The typewriter is significant. Tommy may be a pawn, typing for Randall. Laura's alias, L. Burns, confirms her caution. Paul's hideout is our chance. Archie, join Ori. Tomorrow, capture Paul. Saul, secure that lease. Fred, press Tommy about the typewriter. We are near the heart of this. The team left, and I locked up, my mind on the code. 22 the trial's ghost. Laura was no sidekick. She was the Phantom's fuel, maybe his match. I checked my gun, a habit now, and headed to bed. The brownstone was quiet, but the city was alive with danger. Tomorrow we'd chase Paul, and through him, Laura. The Phantom's time was running out. The next morning I was up at 7, Fritz's coffee kicking me awake. Wolfe was in the greenhouse, but I felt his brain working downstairs. I grabbed my coat, ready to meet Ori in Brooklyn. Laura's proof, Paul's slip, the typewriter. It was all converging. The Phantom thought he was untouchable, but Wolfe was closing the net, and I was ready to pull it tight. Chapter 9. The trap is set. The brownstone's office was thick with tension, like the air before a storm. It was 5 in the evening, and I was at my desk, my nerves jangling from the Phantom killer's shadow. 3 murders, Victor Henshaw, Leonard Morse, Judge Henry Caldwell, each marked by a note signed The Phantom, all tied to a crooked trial 5 years ago. Randall Burke, a bitter loser of that trial, was our Phantom, fueled by his sister Laura's proof of fraud. Evelyn Crane had cracked, Paul Randall had slipped us, and a typewriter linked to a shady delivery guy was humming in the background. Nero Wolfe sat behind his desk, sipping beer, his brain spinning a plan to catch the killer. I was ready for action, but my gut said this was about to get messy. Wolfe leaned back, eyes half closed, his voice steady. Archie, the Phantom is bold but not invincible. His notes, coded with the trial's number, betray his obsession. Laura Burke is his anchor, her documents his fire. We must lure him out. A trap is in order. I perked up, notebook ready. Trap? What's the play, boss? Wolfe sipped his beer, eyes gleaming. We leak false information, a new witness to the trial, someone with evidence to reopen the case. The Phantom, driven by vengeance, will act to silence this threat. We choose a meeting point, you and Ori watch, and we catch him, or Laura, grinned, liking the spark. Risky, but smart. Where's the meat, and who's the bait? The meeting will be at a diner on Bleecker Street tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, Wolfe said. The witness is fictional, but we'll plant the story through Saul's contacts in the press. A small item in tomorrow's paper. Witness to 2015 Henshaw trial found. You, Archie, will pose as the witness's contact. Ori will back you. Saul will watch Laura's Jones Street hideout. Fred, the delivery man, Tommy. I jotted it down, my pulse kicking. What if Laura shows instead of Randall? Or both? Either serves, Wolfe said. Laura leads to Randall. Capture her, and the Phantom's plan unravels. Call Saul, Fred, Ori. Brief them now. I dialed Saul first, catching him at a Greenwich Village bar. Saul, Wolfe's got a trap. Leak a story to your news pals. New witness to the Burke trial. Meeting at Bleecker Street Diner, tomorrow, 8 p.m. You're on Laura's Jones Street place. Watch for movement. Got it, Saul said, voice sharp. I'll plant the story tonight. Fred was next, at a diner near the gala site. Fred, stick to Tommy, the delivery guy. Wolfe's setting a trap. New witness, Bleecker Diner, tomorrow night. If Tommy moves, tail him. On it, Fred grunted. Ori answered, smug as ever. Ori, trap set. Bleecker Diner tomorrow, 8. You're with me staking out a fake witness meet. Be ready for Randall or Laura. Love it, Ori said. I'll bring my charm. I hung up, turning to Wolfe. Team's set. You think the Phantom'll bite? Wolfe's lips twitched. He must. His mission, punishing the trial's players, is his life. A witness threatens that. He will come or send Laura. Now prepare. Rest, Archie. Tomorrow demands your best. I nodded, but rest was a tall order. The Phantom's notes, those bold signatures, haunted me. I typed my notes, locked the office, and grabbed a sandwich from Fritz, who was humming in the kitchen. The brownstone was quiet, but my mind was loud. Randall, Laura, a trap that could go wrong. The next day, I was up at 7, Fritz's coffee jolting me awake. The morning paper had Saul's plant, a tiny blurb on page 5. New witness in 2015 Henshaw trial to meet investigator. Perfect bait. I spent the day checking my gun, sharpening my focus, and calling Clara Henshaw to keep her calm. She was scared but trusted Wolfe. Good. She'd need that faith. By 7 p.m., I was at the Bleecker Street Diner. A familiar dive with sticky floors and a jukebox crooning. Ori was across the street, hidden in a doorway, his hat low. I sat in a booth, posing as the witness's contact. A fake briefcase beside me, stuffed with blank papers. The diner was half full. Truckers, students, a lone waitress named Maggie, who knew me from my Laura hunt. I sipped coffee, eyes on the door, my heart thumping. At 8-0, no Randall, no Laura. Ori signalled from outside, nobody suspicious. I waited, the clock ticking past 8:15. My gut sank. Had the Phantom sniffed the trap? Maggie refilled my cup, whispering, "You okay, mister? You look jumpy." "Just waiting," I said, forcing a grin. "Seen a tall woman, dark hair, red scarf?" She shook her head, moving off. At 8:30, a man entered, thin, dark coat, hat low. My pulse jumped. "Randall!" He scanned the room, eyes locking on my briefcase. He started toward me, then froze, like he sensed a trap. Before I could move, He bolted out the door. I sprinted after him, yelling for Orrie. The street was dark, wet, from a drizzle. The man, Randall, I was sure, darted down an alley. Orrie joined me, but the guy was fast, weaving through trash cans. I was closing in when something hit me. Hard. A shadow swung from the side, a pipe cracking against my shoulder. I stumbled, pain shooting through me, and saw a figure, tall, dark hair, scarf. Laura! Orrie shouted, lunging, but Laura was gone, melting into the dark. The man was long gone too. Then a scream. Orrie, down the alley, clutching his arm. I ran to him, my shoulder throbbing. You okay? I gasped. Got me with a knife? Orrie groaned, blood seeping through his sleeve. Not deep, but she's quick. I helped him up, cursing. Laura! She was covering him. Come on, we need a doc. We limped to a payphone, called an ambulance, and got Orrie patched up at a nearby clinic. The knife wound was shallow. He'd live, but he was mad as a wet cat. I called Wolfe from the clinic, my voice tight. Boss, trap flopped. Randall showed, I think, but Laura ambushed us. Hit me with a pipe, knifed Orrie. They're gone. Orrie's okay. Just cut. Wolfe's voice was calm but sharp. Confound it! Laura is no mere accomplice. She protects Randall with ferocity. The trap failed, but it confirms their desperation. Return now. We regroup. Back at the brownstone, it was 10. Fritz was in bed, the house dark. Wolfe was in the office, a beer in hand, his face like stone. Orrie sat, bandaged, looking sour. I dropped into my chair, my shoulder aching, and spilled the mess. The man, Laura's attack, our empty hands. Then I pulled a crumpled paper from my pocket, dropped in the alley, typed, "No signature. The phantom sees all." Wolfe studied it, eyes narrowing. A taunt, dropped deliberately. The phantom mocks our failure. Yet this proves he took the bait. Randall and Laura are rattled. They risked exposure to stop this witness. I rubbed my shoulder, grim. Rattled or not, they're ghosts. Laura's a fighter, not just a lookout. What now? Wolfe leaned back, sipping beer. We tighten the net. Laura's violence shows loyalty, perhaps love for Randall. The trial's fraud drives them, but her proof, documents, recordings, remains hidden. Saul's on Jones Street, Fred on Tommy, the typewriter man. Tomorrow, Archie joins Saul. Find Laura's apartment. Orrie, rest, then resume Paul Randall's trail. We meet tomorrow, 7. I nodded, too tired to argue. Orrie grumbled, but agreed. Wolfe set down his glass. The phantom is cunning, but his ego, notes, taunts, will undo him. Laura is his shield, but shields crack. Go, rest. I locked up, my body screaming for sleep. The note, the phantom sees all, burned in my mind. Laura's pipe, her knife, showed she'd kill to protect Randall. The brownstone was safe, but the city was a jungle, and we were hunting a beast. The next morning, I was up at 8, Fritz's pancakes and coffee dulling my aches. My shoulder was bruised, not broken, but it hurt like hell. Wolfe was in the greenhouse, so I called Saul, who was staking out Jones Street. Saul, I'm coming to you. Laura's place. Any luck? Got a lead, Saul said. Landlord confirmed L. Burns rented a loft, 3rd floor, cash. She's in and out, quiet. I'm watching now. Stay put, I said. I'm there in an hour. I grabbed my coat, checked my gun, and headed to Greenwich Village. The trap had failed, but Laura's slip, dropping that note, gave us a spark. Randall was the phantom, Laura his guard, and their trail was hot. Wolfe's net was closing, and I was ready to yank it tight. Dinner last night had been Fritz's, soup, warm but tasteless in my mood. Now, as I stepped into the village's bustle, I felt the hunt's pulse. Laura's loft was our shot, and I wouldn't let her slip again. The phantom thought he saw all, but Wolfe saw more, and I was his, eyes on the street. Chapter 10. A Family Secret. The Brownstones' office was a quiet haven, but my mind was a storm. It was 6 in the evening, a day after our trap at the Bleecker Street diner went sour. The phantom killer, 3 murders, Victor Henshaw, Leonard, Morse, Judge Henry Caldwell, all tied to a rigged trial, had slipped us again. Randall Burke was our phantom, his sister Laura, his fierce guard, wielding pipes and knives to protect him. Their motive was revenge for a 2015 lawsuit that ruined them, fueled by Laura's proof of fraud. Our failed trap had left Ori Cather, with a bandaged arm and me with a bruised shoulder, but the phantom's taunting note, "The phantom sees all," burned in my pocket. Nero Wolfe sat behind his desk, sipping beer, his brain churning. I was at my desk, typing notes, waiting for the team to report. The phone rang, sharp and urgent. I grabbed it. Nero Wolfe's residence, Archie Goodwin speaking. "Archie, it's Saul," Saul Panzer said, his voice low, excited. "Big break. I'm at a bar on Jones Street. Found a guy who knew Randall Burke's family. You and Wolfe need this now." My pulse jumped. "Spill it, Saul. We're listening." "Put Wolfe on," Saul said. "It's deep." I waved Wolfe over, hitting the speaker. "Saul's got something big, boss. Go ahead, Saul." Wolfe leaned forward, eyes sharp. "Mr. Panzer, report." Saul's voice crackled. Tracked Laura's alias, L. Burns, to a loft on Jones Street. Landlord let me poke around. Found a neighbour, old guy, used to drink with Randall's dad. He says Randall's father, Thomas Burke, was convicted in the trial's fallout, not the lawsuit, but a related fraud charge. Henshaw framed him to cover the bribe. Thomas went to prison, died there 3 years ago. Randall was 20, Laura 18. It broke them. I whistled low. Wolfe's face tightened, his brain clicking. "The father," he said. "A personal wound, deeper than money." "Continue, neighbour." "Says Randall changed after," Saul went on. "Got quiet, studied computers, vanished for years. Laura stuck close, worked odd jobs, kept his secrets. Neighbour saw them last month, arguing in the loft. Randall was ranting about justice, Laura calming him. She's not just helping, she's all in." Wolfe's eyes gleamed. "Thomas, Burke's death is the phantom's fire. Randall seeks vengeance for his father, Laura his loyal shadow. The trial's fraud was the spark, but this is the flame. Where is Randall now?" "No address," Saul said. "But the loft's active. Laura's stuff, papers, a typewriter. Old Remington, like Kramer's lab found. I'm staking it out. She'll be back." I grinned, despite the ache in my shoulder. "Typewriter's a hit, Saul. That's our note machine. Stay on that loft. We need Laura." Wolfe nodded. "Excellent, Mr. Panzer. Remain vigilant. If Laura appears, follow, but do not engage. Report tonight, 7. Archie, call Fred, Ori. We refine our hunt." I dialed Fred Durkin, catching him near the gala site. Fred, Saul found Randall's secret. His dad died in prison, framed by Henshaw. Laura's loft has the Phantom's typewriter. Keep on, Tommy, the delivery guy. He might link to the notes. Got it, Fred said, sounding grim. Tommy's nervous, dodging me. I'll press harder. Ori was next, at a Brooklyn deli. Ori, Saul's got Randall's motive. His dad, framed, died in jail. Laura's loft's hot. Typewriter's there. You still after Paul Randall? Yeah, Ori said, smug despite his bandage. Paul's holed up in a flop house. I'm watching tonight. I'll nab him, Archie. Good, I said. Meet at 7. Wolfe sipped his beer, leaning back. Thomas Burke's death explains the Phantom's rage. Henshaw framed him, Morse lied, Caldwell upheld it. Randall's notes, coded with the trial's number, are his father's elegy. Laura's proof, documents, recordings, drives him. She is no mere accomplice. She shares his pain. I nodded, scribbling. So Randall's the Phantom, killing for his dad. Laura's the brains, feeding him evidence. The typewriter's a lock. Those notes are theirs. What's our move? Wolfe's lips twitched. We strike at Laura. Her loft is the heart. Archie tomorrow join Saul at Jones Street. Search the loft, find her proof. If she appears, detain her. Ori will capture Paul. Fred press Tommy. We meet tomorrow, 7, to plan the final trap. I leaned forward, my shoulder throbbing. Detain Laura? She's quick with a knife, boss. I'll need backup. Take Saul, Wolfe said. He is precise. Be cautious but firm. Laura is the key. Her capture will force Randall's hand. The Phantom's ego will not allow her loss. I nodded, but my gut twisted. Laura's sharp eyes, her pipe swing, her knife. She was no pushover. I typed my notes, the typewriter's clack steadying me. Fritz poked his head in, offering cocoa, but I waved him off. The Phantom's shadow was too close. At 7, the team gathered. Saul, Fred, Ori, all business. Saul repeated his find. Thomas Burke's framing, his death, the loft's typewriter. He showed a photo of the loft's door, marked L. Burns. Fred went next. Tommy's scared, Fred said. Caught him burning papers today. Snagged one. Delivery receipt for ink. Same brand as the Phantom's notes. He's in with them, I bet. Ori smirked, arm still bandaged. Paul's at the flop house. Saw him sneak out for food. I'll grab him tonight. No slip-ups. Wolfe sipped his beer, eyes gleaming. The typewriter, the ink, Laura's loft. Our net tightens. Thomas Burke's death is the Phantom's heart. Randall kills to avenge him. Laura to honour him. Paul is their weak link. Tommy, their tool. Archie, Saul, secure the loft. Ori, take Paul. Fred, confront Tommy. We are close, gentlemen, but the Phantom is desperate. Act with care. The team left, and I locked up, my mind on Thomas Burke's ghost. Randall wasn't just a killer. He was a son, broken by loss. Laura wasn't just a helper. She was his sister, sharing his pain. The typewriter, the notes, the trial's code. It all screamed their story. I checked my gun, my shoulder aching, and headed to bed. Tomorrow we'd raid Laura's loft, and the Phantom would feel the squeeze. The next morning, I was up at 7, Fritz's coffee and eggs fueling me. My shoulder was stiff, but I shook it off. Wolfe was in the greenhouse, so I called Saul, who was already at Jones Street. "Saul, I'm coming. Loft still quiet?" "Yeah," Saul said. "No sign of Laura, but the landlord's twitchy. Bring your lockpicks. Might need to slip in." "Got 'em," I said, grabbing my coat. I checked my gun again, feeling its weight, and hit the street. Greenwich Village was alive. Artists' cabs, coffee shops. But my focus was Jones Street, a narrow lane of brownstones. Saul met me outside a shabby building, his wiry frame tense, eyes sharp. "Third floor," he whispered, nodding at a window. "Landlord's out. Let's move." We climbed the stairs, quiet as mice. The door marked L. Burns was locked, but my picks made quick work. Inside, the loft was sparse. Bed, table, typewriter on a desk. Papers were stacked neatly, and a red scarf hung on a chair. Laura's place, no doubt. Saul checked the typewriter. Old Remington. Keys worn. Ink matching the notes. "Jackpot," I said, flipping through papers. They were copies of trial documents. Witness, statements, bank records marked with notes in tight handwriting. Henshaw bribed, Caldwell knew. Laura's proof, enough to bury the trial's players. A notebook listed dates, places, Henshaw's penthouse, Morse's gala, Caldwell's home, the Phantom's hit list. Saul found a photo, Randall and Laura, younger, with an older man, likely Thomas Burke. Their faces were soft, happy, before the trial broke them. My gut twisted. This wasn't just revenge. It was grief. "Take it. All?" I said, stuffing papers into my bag. "Wolfe needs this." As we turned to leave, the door creaked. Laura stood there. Tall, dark hair, eyes like ice. She held a knife, small but sharp. "Drop the bag," she said, voice low. "You're not taking my brother's justice." Saul stepped forward, hands up. "Laura, we know about your dad. We get it. Henshaw framed him, ruined you. But Randall's killing won't fix it. Come with us. Talk to Wolfe." Laura's eyes flickered, but her grip tightened. "You don't understand. They took everything. Randall's all I have. I won't let you stop him." I moved slow, hand near my gun. "Laura, we've got your proof. The trial's fraud is out. Help us end this, or Randall dies running." She hesitated, then lunged. Saul dodged, grabbing her wrist, and I tackled her, careful not to hurt her. She fought like a cat, but we pinned her, tying her hands with a cord. Her knife clattered to the floor. "You'll pay," she spat, but her eyes were wet, like she knew it was over. We called Kramer from a payphone, handing Laura over with the papers. "She's your Phantom's sister," I told him. "Proof's in the bag. Trial fraud, hit list. Randall's next." Kramer was gruff, but took her, promising to dig in. Saul and I headed back to the brownstone, exhausted but buzzing. Laura was caught, her proof in hand. Randall was alone now, and the Phantom's mask was cracking. Dinner was Fritz's roast, but I barely tasted it, my mind on Laura's tears. Wolfe ate in silence, his brain already on Randall. The brownstone was safe, but the city was a trap, closing around the Phantom. Tomorrow we'd hunt the man himself, and I was ready to end this game. Chapter 11. The Brownstone Showdown. The Brownstone's office was a stage set for a showdown, and my nerves were the opening act. It was 7 in the evening. a day after we nabbed Laura Burke in her Greenwich Village loft, her trial fraud papers and typewriter tying her to the Phantom Killer. 3 murders, Victor Henshaw, Leonard Morse, Judge Henry Caldwell, each marked by a note signed The Phantom, all rooted in a rigged 2015 trial that framed Randall Burke's father, Thomas Burke, who died in prison. Randall was our Phantom, his sister Laura, his fierce partner, driven by grief and revenge. Nero Wolfe had planned a trap to flush Randall out, and now we were in his office, ready to spring it. I was at my desk, gun-checked, heart-thumping, as Wolfe sat behind his, sipping beer, calm as a pond. Wolfe's plan was bold. Invite everyone tied to the case. Laura, Evelyn Crane, a politician named Senator James Walsh, linked to the trials, bribes, Clara Henshaw, and a few trial witnesses, under the guise of new evidence. Laura was in custody, but Wolfe had Kramer release her to us, guarded by cops outside. The bait? A fake claim that Laura's proof, documents, recordings, had cracked the Phantom's identity. Wolfe bet Randall, obsessed with his mission, would sneak in to silence the threat, or Laura would tip him off. Saul Panzer, Fred Durkin, and Ori Cather were outside, watching for Randall, while I played guard dog inside. The doorbell buzzed at 7 sharp. I opened it to Clara Henshaw, pale but steady, her green eyes nervous. "Mr. Goodwin," she said, clutching her purse, "is this safe?" "Safe as Fritz's kitchen," I said, grinning to ease her. "Wolfe's got it covered. Take the red chair." Next came Evelyn Crane, Henshaw's ex-lawyer, her blonde hair frazzled, eyes darting. She'd spilled about the trial's fraud, scared of Laura's wrath. "I shouldn't be here," she muttered, sitting stiffly. Senator Walsh swaggered in, a big man with a fake smile, his suit screaming money. He'd been named in Laura's papers as the bribes broker. "Wolfe better have good cause," he huffed, taking a yellow chair. 2 trial witnesses, minor players, a clerk and a banker, slipped in, looking confused but quiet. Laura Burke was last, escorted by a cop who stayed at the door. She was tall, dark hair loose, her sharp eyes blazing despite her cuffed hands. I sat her in a corner chair, far from the others. "No tricks, Laura," I whispered. "Wolfe's watching." She glared, silent, but her fingers twitched, like she was signalling someone. My gut tightened. Randall was close. I could feel it. Wolfe leaned forward, hands clasped, his voice deep. "Ladies, gentlemen, thank you for coming. We are here to end the Phantom Killer's reign. 3 men, Victor Henshaw, Leonard Morse, Henry Caldwell, died for their roles in a 2015 trial that ruined a family. The killer, calling himself the Phantom, left notes coded with the trial's number, a taunt to his pain. We have his proof, his tools, and tonight, his name." Walsh snorted. "Get to it, Wolfe. I'm not here for stories." Wolfe's eyes flicked to him cold. "Patience, Senator. Your role will be clear. Miss Crane, you admitted the trial's fraud. Henshaw bribed witnesses. Morse lied. Caldwell ignored it. You helped Laura Burke gather proof? Yes." Crane nodded, trembling. "I didn't know they'd kill. I just gave Laura old files, emails. She said it was for justice." Laura's eyes burned, but she stayed quiet. Wolfe turned to her. "Miss Burke, your father, Thomas Burke, was framed for fraud to shield Henshaw's bribe. He died in prison, leaving you and your brother Randall broken. You found proof, documents, recordings, and gave it to Randall, who became the Phantom. Correct? Laura's voice was ice. You don't know pain, Wolfe. They killed my father. Randall's giving them what they deserve. Clara gasped, clutching her purse. Walsh shifted, sweating. The witnesses looked sick. I scanned the room, my hand near my gun. Randall was out there waiting. Wolfe sipped his beer, calm. Randall Burke, a brilliant young man, studied computers, learned to plan, to hide. He stabbed Henshaw, poisoned Morse, strangled Caldwell, each death a note in his father's elegy. The notes, typed on your Remington, Miss Burke, carried the trial's code, 22, from Case 15, CV 2201. But Randall's ego betrayed him. He craved our fear, our awe. Laura smirked, a crack in her mask. Randall's smarter than you. He sees all. I caught a flicker outside the window. A shadow, quick and thin. My pulse jumped. Boss, I whispered. Movement. Wolfe nodded, barely moving. Stay sharp, Archie. He's here. He raised his voice. Senator Walsh, you brokered the bribe, yes? Laura's recordings name you, directing Henshaw's money to silence witnesses. You profited while Thomas Burke suffered. Walsh stood, red-faced. Lies! You've got no proof! We have, Wolfe said, tapping a folder. Laura's papers. Your voice, your bank records. The Phantom knows, Senator. He's coming. For you. A crash split the air. The front door splintering. Saul's voice shouted outside, then a scuffle. I drew my gun, heart pounding, as Randall Burke burst in. He was thin, dark hair wild, eyes like fire, holding a knife. His coat was torn, his face scratched. Saul had fought him. "Nobody moves!" he screamed, waving the blade. "You can't stop justice!" Laura lunged, but I grabbed her, pinning her arms. "Stay down!" I hissed. Clara screamed. Crane froze. Walsh backed against the wall. The witnesses ducked under chairs. Wolfe sat still, eyes locked on Randall. "Mr. Burke," Wolfe said, voice steady. "Your father's death was a crime, but yours are worse. You killed 3 men, thinking it would heal you. It has not. Drop the knife. Your sister is safe. This." Randall's hand shook, his eyes wet. "They took him. Henshaw framed him, Morse lied. Caldwell let it happen. He pointed at Walsh. You sold my dad for cash. I'm the Phantom, and I finish this." Laura twisted in my grip, sobbing. "Randall, stop! They've got the proof. We can show the world. Don't die for this." Randall hesitated, knife wavering. I saw my chance, easing toward him, gun low. "Listen to her, Randall," I said. "You've got the trial's truth out. Killing Walsh won't bring your dad back. Let's end it clean." His eyes flicked to Laura, then me, then Wolfe. The room was silent, air thick. Wolfe spoke, soft but firm. "Mr. Burke, you are no phantom. You are a son, grieving. Your father would not want this blood. Drop the knife, or Archie will act." Randall's shoulders sagged, the knife clattering to the floor. I tackled him gently, cuffing his wrists with a cord from the desk. Saul rushed in, panting, blood on his cheek. "Got past me," he muttered. "Sorry, Archie." "You slowed him," I said, clapping his shoulder. I called Kramer from the office phone. "Inspector, it's Goodwin. Phantom's Court. Randall Burke in Wolfe's office. Bring your boys." Kramer arrived in 10 minutes, with cops who took Randall and Laura. Randall was quiet now, his fire gone, staring at Laura as they led her out. She looked back, tears streaming, but said nothing. Walsh tried to slip away, but Kramer grabbed him. "You're coming too, Senator. Those papers need a look." Clara stood, shaky but strong. "Mr. Wolfe, you did it. Father's killer. Thank you." Wolfe waved a hand, dismissing her. "Justice is served, Miss Henshaw. Archie, see our guests out." I escorted Clara, Crane, and the witnesses to the door, the cops handling Walsh. The brownstone felt lighter, like a storm had passed. Back in the office, Wolfe was sipping a fresh beer, eyes half closed. "Nice work, boss," I said, dropping into my chair. "You played Randall like a fiddle. Knew he'd crash the party." Wolfe grunted. His ego demanded it. The Phantom craved control, but Laura's capture broke him. Her proof, his grief, drove them both. A tragic pair, Archie. I nodded, thinking of Randall's wild eyes, Laura's tears. Tragic, sure, but they killed 3 men. Kramer'll lock them up. Tight, indeed, Wolfe said. The trial's fraud will be exposed. Walsh will fall. Others may follow. Our work is done. I grinned, stretching my bruised shoulder. Done till Clara's check clears. Then what, boss? Back to orchids? Wolfe's lips twitched, a rare smile. Orchids and Fritz's cooking. Life persists, Archie. Type your report. We rest tonight. I started typing, the clack of keys grounding me. Randall's knife, Laura's proof, the trial's shadow. It was over. The Phantom was just a man, and Wolfe had torn off his mask. The brownstone was quiet, Fritz's dinner smells drifting in. For now, we'd won. The night was calm, but I checked my gun before bed, a habit hard to shake. Randall's scream, Laura's sobs echoed in my head. The Phantom was caught, but his pain lingered, a ghost in the city's heart. Tomorrow I'd sleep late, but tonight I savoured the win, knowing Wolfe's brain had beaten the darkest killer we'd faced. Chapter 12. The Case. Closes. The brownstone on West 35th Street was a cosy fortress, its quiet a balm after the storm of the Phantom killer. It was a crisp October evening, 2 days after our showdown in Nero Wolfe's office, where we'd caught Randall Burke the Phantom and his sister Laura, his fierce partner. 3 murders, Victor Henshaw, Leonard Morse, Judge Henry Caldwell, had rocked the city, each tied to a rigged 2015 trial that framed their father, Thomas Burke, who died in prison. Laura's proof of fraud, documents, recordings, had fueled Randall's vengeance, marked by taunting notes signed The Phantom. Now, with Randall and Laura in custody, Senator James Walsh facing charges, and Clara Henshaw's case solved, I was in the office, typing the final report, feeling the weight lift. Wolfe sat behind his desk, sipping beer, his round face calm, eyes half closed in satisfaction. The doorbell buzzed, soft but clear. I checked the one-way glass and saw Clara Henshaw, her green eyes brighter than before, her coat neat over a blue dress. I opened the door, grinning. "Miss Henshaw, welcome back. Come to settle the bill." She smiled, a real one, stepping inside. "Mr. Goodwin, I came to thank Mr. Wolfe. And yes, I brought the check. Is he free? Always for a client," I said, leading her to the office. I parked her in the red leather chair, poured her coffee from Fritz's pot, and sat at my desk. "The boss is in a good mood. Rare as a sunny winter day. Wolfe set down his beer, nodding to Clara. Miss Henshaw, my condolences again for your father. You have our report. Yes, she said, pulling a folder from her purse. I read it. You found his killer, exposed the trial's lies. I don't know how to thank you. Wolfe waved a hand, his voice deep. No thanks are needed. Justice is served. Randall Burke, the Phantom, killed your father Morse and Caldwell to avenge his own father's framing. Laura Burke, his sister, aided him with proof of the trial's fraud. Bribes by Henshaw, lies by Morse, negligence by Caldwell. Senator Walsh, the bribes broker, will face charges. Your father's death is answered. Clara's eyes glistened, but she held steady. I saw the news. They're calling it the Phantom case. The papers say Randall's confessing. Laura's silent. Will they go to prison? Wolfe grunted, leaning back. Randall has admitted to the murders. Henshaw's stabbing, Morse's poisoning, Caldwell's strangling. His notes, typed on Laura's Remington, coded with the trial's number, confirm his guilt. Laura's role, gathering proof, watching crime scenes, attacking Archie and Mr. Cather, is complicity. The courts will decide their fate, but prison is certain. I nodded, remembering Laura's knife, her tears in the showdown. Randall's, broken, spilling everything to Kramer. Laura's clammed up, but her papers, bank records, recordings, nail the trial's dirt. Walsh is squirming, but he's done. Clara sipped her coffee, her voice soft. Father wasn't perfect. He hurt the Burkes, didn't he? That trial. He framed their father. Wolfe's eyes narrowed, but his tone was gentle. Victor Henshaw was no saint. He bribed witnesses to win the trial, framing Thomas Burke to hide it. Morse lied to support him. Caldwell ignored the truth. Their greed cost a man's life, and their deaths were Randall's revenge. Your father's sins do not lessen your loss, Miss Henshaw. She nodded, tears falling, but her chin stayed high. I understand. Father made mistakes, but he loved me. Knowing the truth helps. What happens now? Wolfe sipped his beer, eyes gleaming. The trial's fraud is public. Walsh's arrest will unravel more. Others may fall. Randall and Laura's story, a tragic quest for justice, will fade to courtrooms and headlines. You, Miss Henshaw, can heal. Live well. That is your father's legacy. Clara pulled a check from her purse, sliding it across the desk. Your fee, Mr. Wolfe. It's worth every penny. If I need you again, I'll call. Wolfe glanced at the check, nodding. Satisfactory. Archie, see Miss Henshaw out. I escorted. Clara to the door, her step-lighter. You did good, Clara, I said. Call if you need a coffee buddy, not just a detective. She smiled, squeezing my hand. I will, Archie. Thank you. Back in the office, Wolfe was reading a book on sheer orchids, his beer fresh. I sat, stretching my bruised shoulder, still sore from Laura's pipe. Case closed, boss. Clara's happy, Walsh is toast, and the Phantom's just a guy in cuffs. Feels good, huh? Wolfe grunted, not looking up. Satisfactory, Archie. Randall Burke's ego, his notes, his taunts, undid him. Laura's loyalty, her proof, gave him purpose, but her capture broke his will. The trial's shadow is lifted, and justice prevails. I leaned back, grinning. Justice? Sure, but your brain did the heavy lifting. That trap, inviting Walsh, Crane, Laura, knowing Randall would crash, it was a masterpiece. Wolfe's lips twitched, a rare smile, a simple deduction. Randall's obsession with the trial, his need to control, made him predictable. Laura's proof, found in her loft, sealed his fate. The rest was execution, your work. Saul's, Ori's, Fred's. I nodded, thinking of Saul's bar lead, Ori's chase, Fred's delivery guy. Team effort, but you're the coach. What's next? Orchids and Fritz's cooking? Precisely, Wolfe said, turning a page. Type the final report, Archie. Then rest. Life resumes. I started typing. The clack of keys a familiar comfort. The case was done, but Randall's wild eyes, Laura's fierce loyalty, lingered. They weren't just killers. They were a son and daughter, crushed by loss, striking back. Thomas Burke's death had sparked it all, and Wolfe's trap had ended it. The brownstone was quiet. Fritz's dinner smells, roast beef, potatoes, drifting in. For now, we were at peace. The next morning I was up at 8, Fritz's coffee and bacon waking me. Wolfe was in the greenhouse, fussing with his orchids, but I felt his satisfaction downstairs. I called Saul, Fred, and Ori, checking in. Saul was back to his usual gigs. Fred was tailing a new mark. Ori was bragging about his bandage like a war scar. The team was solid, ready for the next case. Inspector Kramer called at 10, gruff but calmer. Goodwin, you and Wolfe pulled it off. Randall's pleading guilty. Laura's charged as accessory. Walsh's singing to save his skin. Names, dates, the works. That trial's fraud is blowing up. You got anything else? Nope, I said, grinning. Just a fat check from Clara. You're welcome, Inspector. Kramer snorted. Tell Wolfe I owe him a cigar, but don't expect me to like him. I laughed, hanging up. Kramer's grudging respect was as close as we'd get to a thank you. I typed more of the report, detailing the showdown. Randall's knife, Laura's sobs, Walsh's sweat. The Phantom's notes, with their coded 22, were filed with Kramer, evidence of Randall's twisted mind. By noon, Fritz was baking bread, the smell pure heaven. I took a break, grabbing a sandwich and flipping through the paper. Headlines screamed, Phantom Killer Caught, and Senator faces fraud. Charges. The city was buzzing, but the brownstone was an island of calm. I thought of Clara, starting fresh, and Laura, facing a cell, her loyalty to Randall her only comfort. Randall's confession would lock him away, his phantom mask gone. Wolfe came down at 1, settling into his chair with a beer. Report finished, Archie? Almost, I said, typing again. Just wrapping the loose ends. Walsh's arrest, Laura's papers, Randall's plea. Anything to add? Wolfe leaned back, eyes half closed. Only this. The Phantom was no ghost, but a man, driven by pain, undone by pride. Laura's love for him was her strength and her fall. The trial's truth is out, and our work is done. Satisfactory. I grinned, finishing the report. Satisfactory's an understatement, boss. You cracked a killer who stumped Kramer. That's a win. Wolfe grunted, sipping his beer. A win, perhaps, but orchids await. Life persists, Archie. File the report, then join Fritz for dinner. I nodded, locking the report in the safe. The case was closed. The Phantom unmasked. The trial's fraud exposed. Randall and Laura's story was tragic, but justice didn't care about tears. Clara could move on. Walsh would fall, and the city would forget. The brownstone, though, would stand ready for the next puzzle. Dinner was Fritz's roast beef, tender and rich, with potatoes and green beans. Wolfe ate slowly, savouring each bite, his mind already on orchids. I leaned back, full, my shoulder finally easing. The phantom's shadow was gone, replaced by the brownstone's warmth. I checked my gun one last time, a habit fading, and went to bed. The city slept, and so would I, knowing Wolfe's brain had beaten the darkest killer we'd faced. Chapter 13. Shadows of Justice. The brownstone on West 35th Street was a warm cocoon, its quiet a welcome change after the phantom killer's chaos. It was a chilly November evening, a week since we'd unmasked Randall Burke as the Phantom, his sister Laura as his fierce ally, and exposed a crooked 2015 trial that framed their father, Thomas Burke. 3 murders, Victor Henshaw, Leonard Morse, Judge Henry Caldwell, had been solved, their deaths tied to the trial's fraud, sealed by Randall's taunting notes. Senator James Walsh, the bribes broker, was under arrest, and Clara Henshaw had her closure. I was in the office, sipping Fritz's coffee, flipping through a newspaper, while Nero Wolfe sat behind his desk, reading a book on orchids, a beer at his elbow. The case was done, but its echoes lingered, and my gut said trouble wasn't far off. The newspaper headline screamed, "Senator Walsh indicted in phantom fraud." The story detailed Laura's proof, bank records, recordings, nailing Walsh for funneling Henshaw's bribes. Randall was in jail, pleading guilty to the murders, his phantom mask gone. Laura faced charges as an accessory, her silence in court a stark contrast to her fiery loyalty. I tossed the paper aside, leaning back. "Boss, Walsh is cooked. Kramer's boys are digging up more dirt. Says 2 other politicos might fall. Your trap didn't just catch Randall, it shook the city." Wolfe grunted, not looking up. "Satisfactory, Archie. The trial's rot is exposed as it should be. Randall's vengeance, Laura's proof, served justice, however twisted. Walsh's fall is a bonus." I grinned, stretching my healed shoulder. "Bonus? You toppled a senator. That's a home run." Clara's check cleared too, fat enough for a new suit, ready for a quiet winter. Wolfe's lips twitched, a rare half-smile. Quiet, perhaps, but life persists. Orchids need care. Fritz's cooking demands appreciation. Another case will come, Archie. It always does. The doorbell buzzed, sharp and unexpected. I checked the one-way glass and saw Inspector Kramer, his face less red than usual, holding a cigar box. I raised an eyebrow, opening the door. "Inspector, you lost. Or is that a peace offering?" Kramer snorted, stepping inside. "Don't get cocky, Goodwin. I owe Wolfe a cigar, not you. Where is he?" "In the office, being a genius," said, leading him in. Kramer plopped into the red leather chair, tossing the cigar box on Wolfe's desk. I sat, curious. Kramer didn't visit for fun. Wolfe set down his book, eyeing the box. Inspector Kramer, an unusual courtesy. "To what do we owe this?" Kramer leaned forward, his voice gruff but steady. "You pulled it off, Wolfe. Randall's locked up, Laura's charged, Walsh is done. Those papers from Laura's loft. Gold. We're cracking open the trial's bribes, nabbing a judge and a lawyer tied to Walsh. I don't like you, but you earned this." He nudged the cigars. Wolfe's eyes gleamed, but he didn't touch the box. Satisfactory. The Phantom's ego, his notes, his code, betrayed him. Laura's loyalty, her proof, sealed the case. Your men performed adequately, Inspector. Kramer's jaw tightened, but he let it slide. Adequately. My boys worked overtime. Randall's spilling more. Says Laura planned the hits, not just helped. She picked Morse's gala, scouted Caldwell's house. You think she's the real Phantom? I perked up, my coffee forgotten. Laura, the mastermind. Her knife, her pipe swing, her cold eyes flashed in my mind. Wolfe leaned back, sipping beer, thinking. Unlikely, Wolfe said. Laura's actions, delivering poison, watching scenes, show devotion, not command. Randall's notes, with their theatrical flourish, carry his voice. The trial's code, 22, was his obsession, tied to his father's death. Laura fueled him with proof, shared his grief. But the Phantom was Randall's creation. Her planning was support, not leadership. Kramer nodded, scribbling in his notebook. Fair enough. Randall's taking the fall, but Laura's no innocent. Her lawyer's pushing for a deal. Says she'll talk if we cut her time. You got any loose ends? Wolfe's lips twitched. None. The typewriter, the ink, Laura's papers, Randall's confession. Our work is complete. Miss Henshaw is satisfied, justice served. Unless you have new evidence, Inspector. Kramer shook his head, standing. Nothing new, just clean up. Walsh's cronies are next. Stay out of my way, Wolfe, and maybe I'll bring another cigar. He tipped his hat and left, the door clicking shut. I grinned at Wolfe. A cigar from Kramer? That's a miracle. You think Laura's holding back? Wolfe sipped his beer, eyes half closed. Possibly. Her silence protects Randall, or perhaps herself. Her proof exposed the trial, but her heart was Randall's vengeance. If she talks, it will be to lessen her burden, not to betray him. The case is closed, Archie. I nodded, but an itch lingered. Laura's eyes, fierce yet broken, haunted me. She wasn't the Phantom, but she was more than a helper. I pushed it, aside, grabbing my notebook. Final report's done, boss. Anything to add before I file it? Wolfe turned a page in his book. Only this. The Phantom was a man, not a myth, driven by loss, undone by pride. Laura's love made him bold. Her proof made him deadly. Their tragedy is human, Archie, and humans err. File the report, then join Fritz for dinner. I typed the last lines, the typewriter's clack, a steady rhythm. The case was done. Randall in jail, Laura charged, Walsh indicted, Clara free to heal. But the brownstone's calm felt temporary, like a pause before the next storm. Fritz's dinner, smells, chicken, herbs, fresh bread, drifted in, grounding me. I locked the report in the safe, my shoulder finally free of pain. The next day, I was up at 9, Fritz's pancakes and coffee a perfect start. Wolfe was in the greenhouse, fussing with his orchids, his mind likely on petals, not killers. I called Saul Panzer, checking in. He was tailing a new mark, his voice sharp as ever. Fred Durkin was back to grunt work, Ori Cather bragging about his knife scar. The team was ready. The Phantom case a badge of pride. At noon Clara called, her voice lighter. Mr. Goodwin, I'm selling Father's penthouse. It's time to move on. I wanted to say, you and Mr. Wolfe gave me that chance. If you're ever near my new place, stop by. Will do, Clara, I said, smiling. Stay strong. You've got this. I hung up, flipping through the paper. A small story caught my eye. Phantom Case Sparks Trial Reform. Laura's proof was pushing lawmakers to tighten court rules, a silver lining to the blood. I clipped it for the file, a nod to the Burkes' twisted justice. By 2, the doorbell buzzed again. I checked and saw a young woman, nervous, clutching a letter. I opened the door, curious. "Can I help you, miss?" "I'm Ellen Morse," she said, voice shaky. "Leonard Morse's daughter. I read about the Phantom, the trial. I think Father had more secrets. Can Mr. Wolfe help?" My gut twitched. A new case tied to the old one? I led her to the office, parking her in a yellow chair. "Wait here, Miss Morse. I'll get the boss." Wolfe came down, grumbling about interruptions, but his eyes sharpened when he saw Ellen. "Miss Morse, your father's death was solved. What brings you?" She handed him the letter, her hands trembling. "I found this in Father's safe. It's from someone named T.B., not Thomas Burke. It mentions a deal, money hidden, names I don't know. I'm scared it's tied to the trial, to the Phantom." Wolfe opened the letter, scanning it, his face unreadable. "T.B., he murmured. Not Thomas Burke, but another player. Curious." He looked at Ellen, voice firm. "We will investigate, Miss Morse. Archie, take her statement. Our work continues." I grabbed my notebook, heart kicking up. The Phantom was gone, but his shadow lingered, and a new puzzle was born. Ellen's story, the letter, hinted at more trial secrets, maybe more danger. I typed her details. Names, date spheres, while Wolfe sipped a fresh beer, his brain already spinning. Dinner was Fritz's chicken, fragrant and tender, but I ate fast, my mind on Ellen's letter. Wolfe savoured his meal calm but alert. The brownstone was our stronghold, ready for the next fight. I checked my gun, a reflex reborn, and went to bed. The city hummed outside, its secrets waiting. The Phantom was history, but TB's letter was a spark, and Wolfe's genius would light the way. The next morning I was up early, Fritz's coffee fueling me. Wolfe was in the office, rereading Ellen's letter, his eyes gleaming. The Phantom case was closed, but its ripples, Walsh's fall, Laura's proof, now this, kept us sharp. I grinned, ready for the chase. The brownstone stood firm, and so did we, detectives in a city that never slept.